The experiment had gone wrong, spectacularly wrong. Kang Do-yoon stands in the hallway, covered in green sludge, smoke still rising from his collar. A dozen students are laughing at him. One of them records the whole thing on his phone. Our boy just tried to demonstrate a basic mana-binding exercise to his remedial class, and the catalyst exploded in his face. The sludge drips down his forehead and onto his cheek. He doesn't even bother wiping it off. A third-year student walking past snickers and mutters something about the academy's worst teacher. Kang hears it. Everyone hears it. The kid recording zooms in on his face and asks if he's gonna cry. Kang Do-yoon, 34 years old, once a promising maid who graduated top of his class from this very academy. Now a disgraced instructor assigned to the students nobody else wanted. His classroom is in the basement, literally the basement, next to the boiler room. His students call him Sludge Teacher behind his back. Some of them say it to his face. The academy board has been trying to fire him for 2 years. Today might be the day they finally get their wish. He walks past the laughing students without a word, sludge still dripping onto the polished marble floor. A janitor already has his mop out, shaking his head. Kang pushes through the door to the faculty wing and heads straight for the bathroom. He stands in front of the mirror, staring at his own reflection. Green slime crusted in his hair, staining his collar, smeared across his glasses. He looks like a failed science experiment. He looks like exactly what he is. A man who spent 10 years trying to become the academy's youngest department head and instead became a punchline. He takes off his glasses and rinses them in the sink. The water runs green. Kang Do-yoon thinks about the resignation letter sitting in his desk drawer. He wrote it 3 months ago and never signed it. He thinks about signing it now. He thinks about walking into Dean On's office and telling him he's done. And that's when it happens. A flicker, a number, hanging in the air like heat shimmer, right in front of his eyes. He blinks. It's still there, a glowing red percentage floating in his field of vision. He stares at it. He turns his head left. The number follows. He turns his head right. Still there. He reaches out to touch it, and his hand passes straight through. The number stays fixed in place, burning faintly. He reads it again, convinced he's hallucinating. Then a second number appears beneath it. His breath catches. Kang Do-yoon grips the edge of the sink, knuckles white. He thinks about quitting again, deliberately this time, holding the thought in his mind like a question. The second number wavers, flickering up and down. He thinks about staying. The first number steadies. The second number drops. He hasn't eaten anything weird, hasn't been exposed to any experimental magic lately, and he definitely isn't dreaming. He pinches the back of his own hand hard enough to leave a mark. The numbers are still there. Kang Do-yoon, the academy's worst teacher, can suddenly see the future, or at least the probability of it. He tests it again, thinking about different choices. Walk out of the bathroom right now. Take the rest of the day off. Go to the dean's office and demand a transfer. Each thought generates a different percentage, some high, some miserably low. He watches the numbers shift and dance like a stock ticker powered by his own indecision. A slow grin spreads across his sludge-streaked face. He wipes the green goo off his cheek with a paper towel. Then he takes his glasses out of the sink, puts them back on, and straightens his stained collar as best he can. He isn't signing that resignation letter today. He isn't signing it ever, because Kang Do-yoon just realized something the rest of this academy hasn't figured out yet. He's about to become the most dangerous teacher in this building. Not because he can throw the biggest fireball or cast the flashiest spell, but because he can see exactly which move wins the game before anyone else even knows they're playing. He walks out of the bathroom a different man. The sludge is still there, still crusted on his collar, still faintly steaming. But the look in his eyes has changed. A janitor glances at him and actually steps aside. Kang heads back toward his basement classroom, but he takes the long way, through the main courtyard where the elite classes train. Students in crisp uniforms are running drills, casting precise spells at floating targets, their instructors barking commands. One of the instructors notices Kang shuffling past, covered in green slime. So Jae-kyung, tall, sharp features, immaculately pressed robes, the kind of man who has never failed at anything in his life. Seo watches Kang cross the courtyard with cold amusement. He doesn't say anything. He doesn't have to. His expression says enough. You don't belong here. Kang keeps walking. He doesn't look at Seo. But in his peripheral vision, a new number flickers. This one is lower, much lower. Confronting So Jae-kyung right now, in this courtyard, with no preparation and no allies would be suicide. Kang files that information away and keeps moving. He passes the training grounds and cuts through a narrow alley between two lecture halls. And that's when he hears it. Voices. Not laughing this time, something worse. He slows down and peers around the corner, into a small courtyard tucked behind the third-year wing. 3 students have a girl cornered against the wall. She's small, even for a first year, with tangled dark hair and a faded uniform that's at least one size too big. Her name is Han Soo-mi. Kang knows her because she's in his class. She's quiet, keeps her head down, never causes trouble. And right now, she's being shoved against a brick wall by a girl twice her size. The ringleader is a fourth year named Park Ji-yeon. A rank, talented, connected. Her family donates heavily to the academy, which means she does whatever she wants. She has Han Soo-mi by the collar, demanding something about a homework assignment. Han Soo-mi says she didn't do it. Park Ji-yeon doesn't like that answer. She pulls back her hand, mana already flickering around her knuckles. The other two students are laughing. Kang Do-yoon has two choices: walk away or intervene. He thinks about walking away. A number appears. He thinks about intervening. A different number appears. Higher, not high enough to be safe, but high enough to be right. He steps around the corner. Park Ji-yeon's hand is already coming down when Kang's voice cuts through the courtyard. He tells her to stop. The words come out calm, almost bored. Park Ji-yeon freezes mid-swing, turning to see who just interrupted her. When she recognizes Kang, she laughs. The sludge teacher, the academy's biggest joke. She asks if he's lost, if he knows where the basement is. Kang walks closer. He doesn't speed up. He doesn't raise his voice. He just keeps walking, slowly closing the distance, his eyes fixed on Park Ji-yeon's face. The two lackeys shift uncomfortably. Park Ji-yeon isn't uncomfortable. She's annoyed. She tells Kang to mind his own business, that this doesn't concern him. Kang stops 3 feet away, close enough to see the mana still crackling around Park Ji-yeon's fist. Close enough to see the fear in Han Soo-mi's eyes. He asks Park Ji-yeon what her homeroom teacher would think about an A-rank student beating up a first year in a back alley. Park Ji-yeon's smirk falters. Just a little. She says her homeroom teacher doesn't care what she does. Kang tilts his head, like he's genuinely considering that. Then he asks what the academy board would think. He asks what the donors would think. The ones who fund scholarships for students like Han Soo-mi. He asks how quickly those donations would dry up if a video of this moment got sent to the right people. Park Ji-yeon's eyes flick to her friend holding the phone. The friend looks nervous now. The number in Kang's vision is climbing. He's on the right track. Park Ji-yeon releases Han Soo-mi's collar with a shove. She tells Kang this isn't over. She tells Han Soo-mi to watch her back. Then she storms out, her lackeys scrambling behind her. The courtyard falls quiet. Han Soo-mi is still pressed against the wall, shaking. She looks at Kang like she can't quite believe what just happened, like she's waiting for the other shoe to drop. Kang tells her to come with him. He doesn't explain why. He just turns and starts walking. She follows. They walk in silence through the back corridors, past the kitchens, down the steps to the basement level. Kang's classroom is at the end of a dim hallway, next to the boiler room that hums and clanks like a dying beast. He pushes open the door. The room is small, cramped, barely enough space for 10 desks. Only 6 of them are occupied on a good day. Right now it's empty. Kang gestures for Han Soo-mi to sit. She sits. He leans against his desk, arms crossed, studying her. The numbers are still there, humming in the background of his vision. He asks her why Park Ji-yeon was after her. Han Soo-mi stares at her lap. She says it's because she refused to do Park Ji-yeon's homework for her. Kang asks if that's all. She hesitates. Then she says Park Ji-yeon has been targeting her for months, ever since Han Soo-mi accidentally outscored her on a basic mana theory exam. Park Ji-yeon didn't like being shown up by a first year from the remedial class. Kang nods slowly. He asks Han Soo-mi what her current rank is. She tells him she's still E rank. She's been stuck at E rank since she arrived at the academy, unable to advance no matter how hard she trains. She says her mana channels are too narrow, that she's been told she'll probably never make it past D rank. She says this like it's a fact she's accepted, like she's already given up on herself. Kang Do-yoon looks at this girl, this student who has been bullied and beaten down and told she's worthless, and he sees something familiar. He sees himself 10 years ago, before his own career fell apart, before his own potential curdled into disappointment. He makes a decision. He asks Han Soo-mi if she wants to get stronger. She looks up at him confused. He asks again. If she wants to get stronger, if she wants to beat Park Ji-yeon, if she wants to become a mage who matters. Han Soo-mi's eyes well up with tears. She nods. Kang tells her to be here tomorrow morning, before sunrise. He tells her the training won't be easy. He tells her most of his students quit within the first week. But if she stays, if she trusts him, he promises she won't be E rank for much longer. The number in his vision climbs to 93% and holds steady. He can work with those odds. Han Soo-mi wipes her eyes with her sleeve and asks why he's helping her. Kang Do-yoon looks around his empty classroom, at the cracked walls and the flickering light and the faint smell of boiler exhaust. He tells her it's because he has nothing left to lose, and neither does she, which makes them the most dangerous people in this academy. The classroom is silent the next morning. Han Soo-mi shows up before sunrise, just like Kang told her to. She's standing in the doorway of the basement classroom, shivering in the pre-dawn cold. The boiler room next door rumbles like a beast waking up. Kang is already there, leaning against his desk, arms crossed. He doesn't smile. He doesn't welcome her. He just looks at her and asks if she's ready to work. Han Soo-mi nods. Her hands are clenched into fists at her sides. Kang pushes off the desk and walks past her into the hallway. She follows. They don't go to the training grounds. They don't go to the mana circulation chamber. Kang leads her to the back stairwell, the one nobody uses because it smells like mold and broken dreams. He tells her to run. Just run. Up and down the stairs, 10 times. Han Soo-mi stares at him like he's lost his mind. She asks what running upstairs has to do with mana cultivation. Kang tells her nothing. He tells her it has everything to do with not quitting. Han Soo-mi opens her mouth to argue, then she closes it. She starts running. The first 3 flights are easy. By the 5th, she's gasping. By the 7th, her legs are shaking so badly she has to grab the railing. Kang watches from the bottom, saying nothing. The number in his vision hovers at 62%. Not great, but not terrible. He's testing something. Not her stamina. Her will. Han Soo-mi stumbles on the 8th flight, catches herself on her hands, and keeps going. She doesn't look back at him. She doesn't ask for a break. She just keeps climbing. By the time she finishes the 10th run, she collapses at the bottom of the stairwell, chest heaving. Kang walks over and stands above her. He asks if she knows why Park Ji-yeon is stronger than her. Han Soo-mi wheezes that it's because Park Ji-yeon's mana channels are wider. Kang shakes his head. He tells her it's because Park Ji-yeon has never been punched in the mouth. Han Soo-mi blinks up at him, confused. Kang crouches down so he's at eye level. He explains that the academy teaches students to cultivate mana, like it's a flower garden. Carefully, gently, with perfect form and endless patience. But real combat isn't a garden. It's a fist fight in a ditch. And the person who wins isn't the one with the prettiest technique. It's the one who's willing to get back up after getting knocked down. Han Soo-mi's expression shifts. Something clicks behind her eyes. She sits up, still breathing hard, and asks what she needs to do. Kang stands and offers her his hand. He tells her they're going to rebuild her from the ground up. Not her mana channels, her fundamentals, her breathing, her footwork, her instinct to freeze when someone bigger than her throws a punch. The number in his vision climbs to 78%. Better. Still not where he needs it, but it's a start. They train for 2 more hours. Kang has her run drills in the empty courtyard behind the boiler room. He throws a training dummy at her without warning, watching how she reacts. She dodges. Barely. He throws another one. He dodges again, faster this time. The number climbs to 81%. Kang doesn't smile, but something in his chest loosens. After the session, Han Soo-mi is covered in sweat and dust, her uniform rumpled. She looks exhausted. She looks determined. She asks Kang if he really thinks she can improve. Kang Do-yoon looks at the numbers floating in his vision and tells her he knows she can. Han Soo-mi's eyes get wet again. She doesn't cry this time. She just nods. The next morning, she shows up before sunrise again. And the morning after that. And the morning after that. On the 4th day, she brings a notebook. She's been writing down everything Kang teaches her. Her footwork diagrams, her breathing patterns, a list of every mistake she made and how she corrected it. Kang flips through the notebook while she runs her drills. It's detailed, methodical, obsessive in a way that reminds him of himself. Back when he still believed hard work could fix anything. He hands the notebook back and tells her to keep writing. The number in his vision is at 87% now. It's not the only number he's watching. Across the courtyard, on the upper balcony of the main building, a figure stands perfectly still, watching. So Jae-gyung. Kang doesn't look up. He doesn't need to. He can feel the man's gaze like a cold pressure on the back of his neck. He's been feeling it for 3 days now. So Jae-kyung has been observing Kang's early morning training sessions from a distance. Silent, motionless, like a hawk watching a mouse that doesn't know it's being hunted. Kang knows he's there. He's known since the first morning, when the number in his vision flickered, and a new probability appeared unbidden. The chance that Seo Jae-kyung would try to interfere with his training, 43%. High enough to be a problem, not high enough to panic over, yet. Kang keeps Han Soo-mi focused on her drills, correcting her stance with short, clipped instructions. He doesn't give Seo the satisfaction of acknowledging him. Up on the balcony, Seo Jae-kyung's frown deepens. His fingers tap against the stone railing. A junior instructor approaches him from behind, bowing slightly, asking if there's something he needs. Seo doesn't answer. He just keeps watching the disgraced sludge teacher who should have resigned weeks ago, watching the remedial student who should be invisible. watching something he can't quite explain. Because Seo Jae-kyung is a man who understands power. He has spent decades cultivating his own, climbing the ranks, eliminating rivals. And right now, looking at Kang Do-yoon, he sees something that doesn't fit. A man who was finished. A man who had given up, suddenly acting like he has a secret. Seo doesn't believe in comebacks. He believes in leverage. If Kang Do-yoon has found some, Seo intends to find out what it is. He turns to the junior instructor and asks a single, quiet question. He wants to know if Kang Do-yoon has submitted any paperwork recently. The junior instructor shakes his head. No new requests. No transfer forms. No resignation. Seo's jaw tightens. He tells the junior instructor to keep watching. Then he turns and walks back into the main building, his footsteps echoing in the empty corridor. Down in the courtyard, Han Soo-mi finishes her final drill and asks Kang if they're done for the day. Kang glances at the now empty balcony. He tells her they're done, for now. Later that morning, Kang is in the faculty lounge, pouring himself a cup of coffee that tastes like boiled regret. The lounge is mostly empty. A few junior instructors huddle in the corner, whispering about rankings and exam schedules. Kang ignores them. He's thinking about Han Soo-mi's progress, about Seo Jae-kyung watching from the balcony, about the number that hovered in his vision when he thought about confronting Seo directly. 12%. Suicidal odds. He needs more time. He needs more students. He needs something to tip the scales before Seo decides to act. The door to the lounge opens. Dean An Tae-min walks in. He's an older man with a kind face and sharp eyes. The kind of person who looks like everyone's favorite grandfather until he opens his mouth and dismantles your entire argument with 3 sentences. He spots Kang immediately and walks over. Kang straightens up. He and An Tae-min have known each other for years. The dean was one of the few people who didn't turn his back when Kang's career imploded. That doesn't mean he's an ally. It means he's a man who values fairness. And right now, fairness might not be enough. An greets Kang warmly and asks how he's been. Kang says he's been busy. An chuckles and says he's heard. He's heard Kang has a new student. He's heard about the training sessions before dawn. He's heard that Han Soo-mi has stopped showing up to class with bruises. Kang doesn't confirm or deny anything. He just sips his terrible coffee. An's expression softens. He tells Kang he's glad to see him fighting again. Then he tells him why he really came. The Academy Board is reviewing all remedial classes at the end of the month. Kang's class in particular is under scrutiny. Low enrollment. No measurable improvement in student performance. A teacher with a damaged reputation. An pauses, letting the words land. He tells Kang that if there's no significant improvement by the review, his class will be disbanded. Kang sets his coffee down. He asks what qualifies as significant improvement. An pulls a folded sheet of paper from his coat and hands it to him. The paper lists the metrics: student advancement in rank, class enrollment numbers, performance in the upcoming exhibition matches. Kang reads the list twice. The numbers in his vision flicker, cycling through possibilities. He asks what happens if his class is disbanded. An's expression answers the question before his mouth does. Kang Do-yoon will be let go. No reassignment, no second chance, just gone. An puts a hand on Kang's shoulder. He says he doesn't want to see that happen. He says he's always believed Kang had potential as a teacher, even when Kang stopped believing it himself. But belief doesn't override board policy. He needs results. Real, measurable, undeniable results. Kang folds the paper and tucks it into his pocket. He asks An if there's anything the Academy can do to help. An shakes his head. The board has already made up its mind about Kang Do-yoon. Most of them are waiting for him to fail. Some of them are actively hoping for it. An doesn't say Seo Jae-kyung's name. He doesn't have to. Kang knows. An tells Kang to use the time he has left wisely. Then he leaves. Kang stands in the empty lounge, the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. The number in his vision is moving. He thinks about the exhibition matches. 23% chance of winning with just Han Soo-mi. He thinks about recruiting more students. 47%. He thinks about exposing Seo Jae-kyung before the review. 8%. He thinks about walking into the boardroom and proving every single one of them wrong. The number in his vision glows bright red. It climbs. It hits 91%, and it holds steady. Kang Do-yoon smiles. It's not a nice smile. It's the smile of a man who has spent 10 years being counted out and has finally found a reason to fight back. He finishes his coffee. He walks out of the lounge, and he starts planning. Kang Do-yoon doesn't waste a single morning. The day after An's warning, he's in the basement classroom before the sun even thinks about rising. Han Soo-mi is already there, notebook in hand, spine straight. She's been waiting for 20 minutes. Kang sets a stack of old tournament brackets on his desk and tells her they're entering the exhibition matches. She blinks. She asks if he's serious. Kang points at the percentage floating in his vision. He tells her the number says they can win. He doesn't tell her that number was 23% when he first checked it. He's been running scenarios all night. Different opponents, different brackets, different strategies. The number kept climbing. It sits at 58% now, and Kang intends to push it higher. He pulls out the tournament registration form and fills it out in front of her. One student, one entry, one shot. Han-Soo-mi stares at the paper like it might catch fire. She asks what happens if she loses. Kang caps his pen. He tells her she won't. Then he tells her to drop and give him 50 push-ups because they've already wasted 3 minutes talking. She hits the floor before he finishes the sentence. The training intensifies. Kang tears apart her footwork and rebuilds it from the ground up. He notices she favors her right side, so he spends an entire morning forcing her to lead with her left. He throws training dummies at her from blind spots. He makes her run laps with mana weights strapped to her ankles, then asks her to form a basic shield while her legs are still shaking. She fails. The shield flickers and dies 3 times. On the 4th try, it holds. Kang checks the percentage. 62%. He tells her to do it again. By the end of the week, Han-Soo-mi is throwing punches that actually connect. Her mana output is still low, but her control has sharpened. She doesn't waste energy on flashy movements anymore. Every step has a purpose. Every block sets up a counter. Kang watches her spar against a training construct and sees the difference. The girl who flinched when Park Ji-yeon raised her voice is gone. In her place is someone who dodges, pivots, and strikes without hesitation. He writes a single note in his own log. Ready. Then the sabotage begins. Kang shows up to the training room on the 8th morning and finds the door lock broken. The training dummies are slashed open. Sand and stuffing cover the floor. Someone has spray painted a single word on the back wall in bright red. Failure. Han-Soo-mi arrives 2 minutes later and sees Kang standing in the doorway. She looks past him and goes pale. She asks, "Who did this?" Kang doesn't answer. He's already thinking through possibilities. The percentage in his vision flickers through a dozen scenarios. Confront the Academy's security office. 17% chance of identifying the culprit. Check for witnesses. 34%. Scan the hallway for residual mana traces. 41%. He picks the 3rd option and steps into the hallway. He kneels and places his palm flat against the stone floor. He's not a sensor specialist, but he knows the basics. A faint residue clings to the wall near the doorframe. Dark mana. Unstable. Not a student. Kang stands up and tells Han-Soo-mi they're training outside today. She asks about the mess. He tells her to leave it. He wants whoever did this to know they didn't scare anyone off. They train in the courtyard. Kang runs Han-Soo-mi through pattern drills while other students watch from the windows. Some of them laugh. Most of them just stare. Han-Soo-mi doesn't notice any of them. She's too focused on the next move, the next adjustment, the next correction. Kang barks at her. So Jae-kyung's junior instructor is standing near the east gate. Kang spots him immediately. He's pretending to review a clipboard, but his eyes track every drill. Kang lets him watch. He even adjusts Han-Soo-mi's stance to make her look slightly weaker than she actually is. The junior instructor scribbles something in his notes. Kang smiles. The next morning, the sabotage escalates. Han-Soo-mi's sparring gear has been stolen from her locker. She stands in the locker room, staring at the empty space where her gloves and padded vest should be. Park Ji-yeon walks past with 2 other girls and smirks. She asks if something's missing. She says maybe Han-Soo-mi should learn to lock her things up. Then she suggests maybe Han-Soo-mi should just quit. Han-Soo-mi doesn't flinch. She doesn't cry. She doesn't run to find Kang. She closes the locker, walks past Park Ji-yeon without a word, and reports for training anyway. Kang notices she's wearing her regular uniform instead of gear. He asks what happened. She tells him. He asks what she said to Park Ji-yeon. She says nothing. Kang nods. He tells her good. Then he tells her they're switching to hand-to-hand drills since she doesn't need gloves to break someone's nose. Han-Soo-mi's eyes light up. She asks if he means it. Kang pulls a training dummy into position and tells her to imagine it's Park Ji-yeon's face. She doesn't hesitate. The dummy takes some serious damage that morning. Kang files a report with the equipment office about the stolen gear. He names no one. He simply notes that a student's property was taken and requests a log of all locker room access for the past 48 hours. The clerk looks at the form and asks if he really wants to escalate this. Kang asks what the clerk's name is. The clerk stops asking questions. The access log arrives 2 hours later. Kang reviews it in the faculty lounge while eating a stale granola bar. 3 names stand out. One of them belongs to a student who has no reason to be near the locker room at the recorded time. A student from Seo Jae-kyung's advanced combat class. Kang memorizes the name and deletes the file. He's not going to use it, not yet. A trap is only useful if your opponent doesn't know you've seen it. The next phase of sabotage arrives in a more subtle form. The tournament brackets are posted. Han Soo-mi's name is listed against a student named Yoon Ha-jun. Yoon is Seo's star pupil, B-rank mana, 3 prior exhibition wins, a reputation for breaking his opponent's bones and calling it an accident. Kang stares at the bracket. The probability of a fair draw producing this matchup is essentially 0. Someone pulled strings. Kang thinks about confronting the tournament committee, 6%. He thinks about demanding a redraw, 11%. He thinks about training Han Soo-mi to exploit everything Yoon Ha-jun does wrong, 73%. And climbing. He folds the bracket and tucks it into his coat. He finds Han Soo-mi in the courtyard after her afternoon classes. She's already seen the bracket. Her face is pale, but her jaw is set. She asks if he knew. Kang tells her he didn't. He tells her it doesn't matter. She asks how it doesn't matter. Kang sits on the edge of the fountain and tells her exactly what kind of fighter Yoon Ha-jun is. Strong, fast, arrogant. He telegraphs his heavy hits because he's never needed to hide them. He drops his left elbow after every third strike. He relies on overwhelming power instead of precision because no one has ever survived long enough to punish his mistakes. Kang has watched 3 of Yoon's matches on old recordings. The patterns are clear, predictable, exploitable. Han Soo-mi listens to every word. She pulls out her notebook and starts writing before Kang even finishes. He watches her sketch the footwork counters he's described. The percentage in his vision ticks upward, 79%. They train harder. Kang brings in a senior student to spar with Han Soo-mi, someone larger and stronger who can mimic Yoon's aggressive style. The sessions are brutal. Han Soo-mi takes hits. She gets thrown into the dirt. She gets up. She gets thrown again. She gets up again. On the 4th day, she dodges the heavy strike and lands her own counter. The senior student stumbles. Kang calls the session. He tells Han Soo-mi she's ready. She doesn't believe him. He tells her she doesn't have to. Match day arrives. The exhibition hall is packed. Students fill the stands. Instructors line the upper balcony. Seo Jae-kyung is there, arms crossed, expression unreadable. Dean An Tae-min sits near the judges' table, watching Kang with a look that says, "I hope you know what you're doing." Kang stands at the edge of the ring. Han Soo-mi is beside him, hands wrapped, uniform crisp. She's breathing steadily. Good. The announcer calls both fighters to the center. Yoon Ha-jun steps into the ring first. He's tall, broad-shouldered, radiating confidence like body heat. He cracks his knuckles. He grins at Han Soo-mi. He tells her this won't take long. She doesn't answer. The bell rings. Yoon lunges immediately, throwing a mana-charged right hook that would shatter bone on impact. Han Soo-mi sidesteps. Yoon's fist passes through empty air. He stumbles a half-step, surprised, then recovers and swings again. She ducks under it and pivots to his left. His elbow drops, exactly where Kang said it would. Han Soo-mi strikes. A single precise palm thrust into Yoon's exposed ribs. Mana flares at the point of contact. Yoon grunts and staggers sideways. The crowd goes silent. Kang watches Yoon's face shift from arrogance to confusion to fury. The big man charges. He throws 4 strikes in rapid succession, each one loaded with enough mana to crack stone. Han Soo-mi doesn't try to block any of them. She moves. Left step, back pivot, duck, slide right. Every strike misses by inches. Yoon overextends on the 4th punch, lunging too far forward. His guard drops. Han Soo-mi spins into his blind spot and drives her elbow into the back of his shoulder. Yoon's arm goes numb. He roars and swings wildly with his other hand. She catches his wrist, uses his momentum against him, and throws him into the ring post. The impact echoes through the hall. Yoon slides to the floor. He tries to get up. His legs don't cooperate. The referee counts. The count reaches 8. Yoon is still on his knees. The bell rings. Han Soo-mi wins. The hall erupts. Students who mocked her 2 weeks ago are on their feet. Instructors exchange stunned looks. Dean An claps slowly, a genuine smile breaking through his usual composure. Kang doesn't celebrate. He's watching Seo Jae-kyung. Seo's face is stone. Not angry, not disappointed. Stone. He uncrosses his arms. He turns. He walks out of the balcony without a single word. Kang checks the percentage in his vision. The number for Seo's retaliation is moving. It's not low. It's not high. It's changing too fast to read. That's worse. Han Soo-mi walks out of the ring. She's shaking. She asks if that really just happened. Kang tells her it did. She asks if Yoon is okay. Kang glances at the medical team helping Yoon off the mat. He tells her Yoon will be fine. He doesn't tell her that Yoon's pride will take a lot longer to heal. She nods. Then she asks what comes next. Kang looks toward the empty balcony where Seo Jae-kyung stood moments ago. The air still carries the faint residue of dark mana. Not Yoon's. Something older. Something colder. Kang tells her they keep going. The review is in 3 weeks. This win buys them time. It doesn't buy them safety. Han Soo-mi asks what he's worried about. Kang shows her the bracket sheet. He points to the name at the very top of So's advanced class roster. Not Yoon Ha-jun, another name. He tells her Seo just lost a pawn. He tells her Seo won't make the same mistake twice. The percentage in Kang's vision finally stops flickering. It lands on a single number. The chance that Seo Jae-kyung escalates before the review. 94%. Kang folds the paper and tucks it away. He tells Han Soo-mi to get some rest. Tomorrow they start training for the real fight. She doesn't ask what that means. She already knows. Park Ji-yeon is watching from the stands, arms crossed, eyes burning with something between jealousy and disbelief. Kang catches her gaze. He holds it for 3 seconds. Then he turns his back on her and walks out of the hall. Han Soo-mi follows. The walk back to the basement classroom is quiet. Kang's mind is already running the next set of numbers. He thinks about the stolen gear. He thinks about the dark mana residue. He thinks about the name on the access log and the name on Seo's roster, and the connection between them that he hasn't quite put together yet. The percentage for that connection clicks into place. 88%. It's high enough to act on. Kang stops outside the classroom door. He tells Han Soo-mi to go home. He has one more thing to handle tonight. She hesitates. She asks if he needs backup. Kang almost smiles. He tells her not yet. Then he heads for the faculty wing, where the lights in Seo Jae-kyung's office are still burning bright. Kang doesn't knock. He pushes open Seo Jae-kyung's office door and walks straight in like he owns the place. SEO is at his desk. A single lamp burning, 3 stacks of student files arranged with military precision. He doesn't look up. He says Kang's name like it's a stain he's tired of cleaning. Kang doesn't sit. He doesn't offer pleasantries. He tells Seo they need to talk about the sabotage. Seo finally lifts his eyes. Cold, calm, utterly unbothered. He asks what sabotage Kang is referring to. Kang describes it. The broken lock, the slashed dummies, the spray paint, the stolen gear. He leaves out the dark mana residue. He wants to see if Seo gives that part away himself. Seo doesn't. He leans back in his chair. He says it sounds like a janitorial issue. Kang's vision flickers. The percentage saying Seo will slip up in this conversation. 17%. Not good enough. He needs to push harder. Kang tells Seo he checked the access log. He says a student from Seo's advanced class used a keycard on that training room 2 hours before the damage was found. Seo's expression doesn't change, but his left thumb taps the desk once. Just once. Kang sees it. Seo asks if Kang is accusing one of his students. Kang says he's just sharing facts. Seo stands up. He's taller than Kang by half a head. He moves around the desk slowly, deliberately, the way a predator circles something it hasn't decided to eat yet. He tells Kang that facts are dangerous things in the wrong hands. He asks if Kang knows how many remedial teachers have come through this academy in the last 10 years. Kang doesn't answer. Seo tells him anyway, 14. He says none of them lasted 2 semesters. He says Kang's little exhibition win doesn't change that math. Kang's jaw tightens. The percentage for Seo threatening him directly, 91%. Right on schedule. He asks Seo if that's a warning. Seo smiles. It's not a warm smile. It's the kind of smile a blade makes before it cuts. He tells Kang it's a courtesy. He says Kang should focus on his one student and his basement classroom and leave academy politics to people who understand them. He says Kang already failed once. He asks what makes Kang think this time will be different. The question hangs in the air. Kang's glasses catch the lamplight. For a moment, his eyes are unreadable. Then, he tells Seo he's right about one thing. Seo raises an eyebrow. Kang says he did fail before. He says failure teaches you things success never will. He says one of those things is how to recognize when someone is afraid of you. Seo's smile freezes. Just a fraction. Just for a second. Kang sees it. The percentage that Seo has something to hide in this office, 84%. Kang glances around the room. The file cabinets. The locked drawer on Seo's desk. The faint, almost invisible seam in the wall behind Seo's chair that doesn't match the rest of the paneling. He catalogs it all without a word. Seo follows his gaze. For the first time, something real flickers behind his eyes. Not anger, concern. He tells Kang the conversation is over. Kang agrees. He turns to leave. At the door he pauses. He doesn't look back. He tells Seo he'll see him at the review. Then he's gone. The hallway is empty. Kang walks 10 paces before he lets himself breathe. His hands are steady. His mind is not. The probability that Seo will move against him within the week, 97%. The probability that CO's office contains evidence of something bigger, 72%. The probability that whatever CO is hiding connects to the dark mana residue, 64%. Kang files every number away. He'll need them soon. He's halfway to the basement when he senses it. Not a sound, not a movement, a presence. Someone is behind him, keeping pace, matching his footsteps exactly. Kang doesn't turn. He doesn't speed up. He thinks about the route ahead. 3 possible turns, 2 blind corners, 1 maintenance alcove. The percentage for losing a tail on this route, 41%. Not great. The percentage for confronting them and walking away unharmed, 78%. Better. He takes the next left into a darker corridor. Then he stops. He waits exactly 2 seconds. Then he spins and grabs a fistful of fabric before the figure can react. It's a woman. Short. A maintenance uniform that doesn't fit quite right. A cap pulled low over her face. She doesn't struggle. She doesn't cry out. She just looks up at him with flat gray eyes and shoves a folded piece of paper into his chest. Then she twists out of his grip with a speed that doesn't match her build and vanishes down the corridor. Kang almost chases her. Almost. But the paper in his hand is old, yellowed at the edges, and sealed with a symbol he doesn't recognize. He breaks the seal. The note is handwritten, 4 lines. The handwriting is precise, almost mechanical. It says, "The forbidden archives beneath the East Library hold records erased from the official logs. Look for the file marked Perception Ring. It belonged to the Academy's founder. It was never destroyed. They lied. No signature. No name. Nothing to indicate who sent it." Kang reads it 3 times. His pulse is a drumbeat in his ears. The Perception Ring. He's never heard of it, but the name alone tells him it's connected to what he can do. Perception, seeing, probabilities. The timing is too precise to be coincidence. Someone knows what he can do. Someone wants him to find this file. The percentage that the note is a trap, 61%. The percentage that the information is genuine, 73%. The percentage that ignoring it is more dangerous than acting on it, 89%. That settles it. Kang memorizes the note. Then he holds the corner of the paper to the nearest wall sconce. The flame catches. The paper blackens and curls. In 10 seconds, it's ash on the floor. He grinds it under his heel and keeps walking. He doesn't go to the basement classroom. He heads east. The library locks its doors at 11. It's 10:47. He'll have to move fast. The East Library is the oldest building on campus. 3 floors of stone and ironwork, stained glass windows that nobody remembers how to clean, and a basement level that was officially sealed 50 years ago. Officially. Kang slips through the main entrance 2 minutes before lockup. The night librarian, an ancient woman named Mrs. Gong, squints at him from behind her desk. He gives her a nod and a calm smile. He's just here to return a book. She doesn't question it. She's seen stranger things than a teacher in the library at night. Kang waits until she turns away. Then he's moving. Past the history section. Past the restricted reading room. Down a narrow spiral staircase that most students don't even know exists. The air gets colder. The walls get rougher. The electric lights give way to old gas fixtures that haven't been lit in decades. Kang pulls out his phone and uses the screen's glow to navigate. The Forbidden Archives. There's a door at the bottom of the stairs. Heavy oak, iron bands, a lock that looks like it was forged before the Academy was founded. Kang studies it. The percentage for picking it with tools he doesn't have, 3%. The percentage for finding another way in, 51%. He searches the walls. His fingers trace the stone joints. 10 minutes pass. Nothing. He's about to try the lock anyway when his hand brushes a brick that's slightly warmer than the others. He presses it. Something clicks. The wall to his left swings inward. Guess what? Our boy just found the service entrance. The passage beyond is barely wide enough for his shoulders. He squeezes through and emerges into a room that time forgot. Shelves tower to the ceiling, crammed with scrolls and ledgers and boxes, labeled in handwriting so old the ink has faded to ghost marks. Dust hangs in the air like fog. Kang moves fast. He doesn't have long before Mrs. Gong notices he hasn't come back up. He needs the file marked Perception Ring. He needs it now. The archives are organized by era, not by topic. Kang figures out the system after 2 minutes of scanning shelf markers. The Founder's Era is the deepest section, all the way at the back. He finds it behind a collapsed bookshelf someone never bothered to clear. The shelves are intact, but the labels are nearly illegible. He reads them one by one, his phone battery ticking down. Founding Charter, Early Enrollment Records, Construction Logs, Disciplinary Hearings of Year 1. And then, tucked behind a loose board he nearly misses, Artifact Registry, Pre-Academy Holdings. He pulls it out. It's not a file, it's a ledger. bound in leather that flakes at his touch. He opens it on the nearest flat surface. The entries are handwritten, dated, meticulously catalogued. Magical artifacts acquired by the Academy's founder before the school was built. Most of them are mundane. Enchanted chalk, self-inking quills, a compass that always pointed toward the nearest library. But near the bottom of the list, circled in red ink that has barely faded, perception ring, origin unknown, classification forbidden, status contained. Forbidden, not destroyed, contained. Kang flips the page. A second sheet is folded and tucked inside the ledger. He unfolds it carefully. It's a diagram. A ring, simple in design with a single stone set into the band. The stone is labeled Void Opal. The notes around the diagram describe its function. It doesn't enhance perception. It replaces it. The wearer sees the world not as it is, but as a lattice of probabilities, outcomes, cause and effect rendered visible. The founder used it to predict monster attacks, political betrayals, the rise and fall of entire nations. But prolonged use caused what the notes call temporal dissociation. The wearer began to see probabilities so far into the future that the present became meaningless. The founder couldn't tell what was real anymore. He ordered the ring contained. He ordered all records of it erased from the official logs. And someone, 50 years later, wants Kang to know it exists. The percentage that the ring is still somewhere in the Academy, 81%. The percentage that Seo Jae-kyung knows about it, 68%. The percentage that the person who sent the note is connected to the ring's containment, 55%. Not great, but Kang's own ability, the numbers in his vision, the probabilities that guide his every move. This ring is the closest thing to an origin he's ever found. He isn't leaving without that information. He pulls out his phone and photographs every page. The diagram, the notes, the red circle around the word forbidden. He even photographs the ledger's cover and the shelf marker, anything that proves where he found it. Then he slides the ledger back into its hiding spot and reseals the loose board. If someone checks, they won't know he was here. He's halfway back to the service passage when he hears it. Footsteps. Above him, heavy, deliberate, coming down the spiral staircase. Not Mrs. Gong. She walks with a shuffle. This is someone else. Someone who moves like they're hunting. Kang's vision floods with numbers. The percentage for reaching the passage before they enter, 23%. The percentage for hiding, 67%. The percentage for fighting. His power doesn't give him a number. It flickers. It can't decide. That's never happened before. Whatever's coming down those stairs, his ability can't predict the outcome. That means it's something his current knowledge can't account for. He doesn't wait. He scans the room for options. The collapsed bookshelf, a maintenance hatch in the ceiling, a ventilation grate barely large enough for a man his size. He picks the grate. He pries it open, shoves himself inside, and pulls the cover back into place just as the door below him creaks open. Through the slats, Kang can see a sliver of the room. Two figures enter. One is tall, wrapped in a dark coat, face hidden by a hood. The other is shorter, a woman, moving with the same fluid speed as the messenger from earlier. They don't speak for a long moment. Then the tall one moves toward the founder's shelves. He's looking for something. Kang holds his breath. The tall figure scans the shelf markers. His hand stops exactly where Kang pulled the ledger. He reaches behind the loose board. He pulls out the ledger. He flips through it. He pauses on the page with the red circle. Then he closes it and tucks it under his arm. The shorter figure asks if the teacher found it. The tall one says it doesn't matter. He says the ring will be moved by morning. He says the academy isn't safe anymore. They leave. The door closes. Kang stays in the vent for 10 full minutes, listening to his own heartbeat, counting the seconds until his hands stop shaking. When he finally climbs out, his knees pop and his shirt is soaked with sweat. He doesn't care. He has the photos. He has the information. And now he has a name for the people who tried to hide it. Not Seo Jae-kyung. Something older. Something that's been inside the academy since before Kang was born. The percentage that the tall figure was an academy official, 44%. The percentage that he works for the same group SEO does, 71%. The percentage that the ring being moved means Kang just ran out of time, 91%. He wipes the dust off his clothes. He straightens his glasses. He walks out of the library at 12:13 in the morning, past Miss Gong, who is asleep at her desk, past the darkened classrooms and the empty training halls, all the way back to the basement. Han Soo-mi is gone. The classroom is dark. Kang sits at his desk and stares at the photos on his phone until the screen burns into his vision. He has 3 weeks until the review. He has 1 student. He has a power he doesn't fully understand, and a ring he's never seen, and a conspiracy that just noticed him noticing. The percentage for pulling this off. He doesn't check. He doesn't want to know. Not tonight. Tonight he closes his phone. He leans back in his chair, and he lets the silence of the basement wrap around him like armor. Because tomorrow, the real fight starts. And this time, he's not walking in blind. Kang doesn't get his night of silence. He's barely closed his eyes when the basement door rattles. Someone's trying the handle. The lock holds, but that won't last long. He's on his feet in 2 seconds flat. His phone goes into his pocket, and his bag stays where it is. The percentage for reaching the back exit before they breach the door is 41%. Not good enough. The percentage for the ventilation shaft above the boiler room is 78%. He moves. Kang shoves a chair under the door handle and sprints for the boiler room access panel. Behind him, the door splinters. He doesn't look back. He yanks the grate off the vent and hauls himself inside, just as flashlights sweep the classroom. The vent is tight and hot and smells like rust and old steam. Kang crawls on his elbows through total darkness while the voices below multiply. At least 3 of them, maybe 4. One of them says the target isn't here. Another says to check the boiler room. Kang freezes mid-crawl. The percentage for staying silent is 89%. The percentage for moving now is 12%. He doesn't breathe. Footsteps pass directly beneath him, and the metal conduit shudders. When they move on, he keeps crawling. The vent spits him out behind the boiler room near an exterior maintenance door. He's covered in dust and his glasses are crooked, but he's out. The percentage for making it to his quarters undetected is 64%. The percentage for the east gate is 22%. The percentage for the faculty parking garage is 71%. He takes the garage. Kang cuts through the shadows behind the training halls and keeps his head low. Halfway across the courtyard, he senses movement on the rooftop above him. A figure in dark clothes tracking his path. The percentage for running is 31%. The percentage for hiding is 43%. The percentage for standing his ground is 7%. His power flickers again on that last number. Same as the archives. Whatever these people are, his ability can't fully read them. He doesn't run. He doesn't hide. He walks straight into the faculty garage like he belongs there and slides behind a supply truck. The rooftop figure doesn't follow. Kang waits 5 minutes and counts 15 different probabilities before his hands steady. Then he's up and moving again. He takes the back stairwell to the faculty wing and slips into his small 3rd-floor apartment. The door locks behind him. He doesn't turn on the lights. He stands in the dark with his back against the wall and replays the last 30 minutes in his head. They knew where to find him. They knew the basement classroom. They knew he was alone. The percentage that someone inside the faculty tipped them off is 88%. The percentage that it was Yang Hae Rim specifically is 64%. Seo's rogue teacher ally with the dark magic specialty and a grudge against anyone who threatens the old order. Kang pulls out his phone and scrolls through the photographs again. The ledger page. The diagram of the perception ring. The word forbidden, circled in red ink 50 years before he was born. The percentage that the ring is still at its containment site is 53%. It was higher before tonight. The 2 figures in the archives said they'd move it by morning. That means Kang has maybe 6 hours. He doesn't pack much. A change of clothes and his phone charger, and the photocopy of Dean On's old meditation manual, and Han Soo-mi's notebook with the footwork diagrams she drew during their first week. He brings that too. He isn't sure why. He leaves through the laundry room window because the percentage for the stairwell being watched is 91%. The academy is silent at 2 in the morning, and the moon is thin and sharp. Kang crosses the outer training field and texts Han Soo-mi from the edge of the East Woods. The message says to meet him at the old bus stop outside the South Gate in 20 minutes. He adds that she should bring her training gear. He doesn't explain why. The percentage that she'll come is 94%. She's there in 15. Han Soo-mi stands under the broken bus stop light with a duffel bag and her hair pulled back. She asks what's going on. Kang tells her they're taking a field trip. She asks if this is more training. He says it's the most important lesson she'll ever get. The bus out of the academy district runs once an hour, and they catch the 2:45. Kang pays in cash. Han Soo-mi sits beside him with her bag on her lap and her eyes on the window. She doesn't ask where they're going. She trusts him. That's either brave or stupid. And honestly, it's probably both. The bus takes them east past the city limits and into the old mountain road. After 40 minutes, Kang pulls the cord, and they step off at a stop that isn't really a stop, just a gravel turnout and a trailhead marker that's been rusting since before either of them were born. Han Soo-mi looks at the dark forest and asks if this is the part where he tells her there's no actual lesson. Kang says the lesson is real. He says it's about 2 miles up the trail. He says there's something the academy buried 50 years ago, and they're going to find it before sunrise. She doesn't flinch. She just tightens her bag straps and starts walking. Our boy follows. The ruin of echoes isn't on any modern map. Kang found the coordinates buried in the margin of the ledger photograph, a tiny notation in faded ink that said, Containment Site 7, and listed a location that matched the old pre-Academy survey records. The founder built hidden vaults all across the Eastern Range, back when the Academy was still a fortress. Most of them were looted or collapsed centuries ago. Site 7 was forgotten, until tonight. The trail climbs through dense pine, and the air gets colder and thinner with every step. Hansumi doesn't complain, but Kang can see her breath coming harder. He slows the pace enough to keep her moving without burning out. The percentage for reaching the site before dawn is 71%. The percentage for an ambush on the trail is 34%. He checks that number every 2 minutes like a heartbeat. After an hour and a half, they reach the cliff face. It looks like nothing, a sheer wall of black basalt with scrub pines growing sideways out of the cracks. But Kang sees it immediately, the outline of a door that nature spent 5 decades hiding, roots and moss, and a deliberate rock slide covering what used to be an entrance. The percentage that this is the right location hits 97% and stays there. Hansumi asks how they're supposed to get inside. Kang tells her to watch. He approaches the cliff face and runs his hand along the seam he spotted. His fingers catch on something cold. Metal. A locking mechanism shaped like a 7-pointed star buried beneath the moss. The archive notes mentioned a key. The ledger said the ring was contained, not destroyed, which means the key must still exist. The percentage for finding the key nearby is 62%. Kang starts scanning the ground. Loose stones and dead roots, and the kind of forest debris that collects over half a century. Hansumi asks what he's looking for. He tells her a star-shaped metal plate about the size of her palm. She doesn't ask why. She just starts looking. 3 minutes later, she holds up a chunk of corroded iron with 6 points instead of 7. Kang says close, but not it. She keeps searching. The percentage ticks up to 68%, 71%, 76%. Kang's foot catches on a root, and he stumbles forward, and his hand hits the ground right on top of something that isn't stone. He digs it out of the cold dirt, a 7-pointed star, black iron with silver inlay, still intact after all this time. The percentage for it still working is 84%. He presses the star into the lock and turns. Something deep inside the cliff groans, like an old man waking up. The door swings inward. Darkness. Cold air that smells like dust and old magic. Hansumi peers into the black and asks if they're really going in there. Kang steps forward. She follows. The Ruin of Echoes is a single chamber carved into the mountain's heart, 50 feet wide and 30 feet high, with walls covered in carvings that glow faintly blue when disturbed by fresh air. The founder's work. Every inch of stone is etched with probability matrices, branching trees of cause and effect and outcome chains, stretching from floor to ceiling like frozen lightning. In the center of the room, there's a pedestal, and on the pedestal there's a box, black lacquer with silver hinges, and the same 7-pointed star burned into the lid. The percentage that the perception ring is inside that box is 99%. Kang walks toward it, and his vision floods with numbers. Percentages for opening the box without triggering a trap. Percentages for what happens after. Percentages for leaving now and pretending he never found it. He doesn't listen to any of them. He lifts the lid. Inside, on a cushion of black velvet, sits a ring. It's smaller than he expected. A thin band of something that isn't quite silver and isn't quite bone. The stone is the void opal from the diagram. A sphere of absolute black that seems to swallow the blue glow of the carvings around it. Kang reaches for it. His hand stops an inch from the stone. Not because of fear, because something in the room shifts. The carvings on the walls pulse brighter, and a voice speaks from everywhere and nowhere at once. It sounds like wind through a cracked window. It asks, who dares claim what was sealed? Kang says he does. The voice says the wearer must prove they can see what is not yet written. A test. The percentage for passing this test is unknown. His power won't give him a number. Same flicker as the archives. Whatever this thing is, it exists outside the probabilities he can read. The voice asks 3 questions. The first question is about a battle that hasn't happened yet. It describes 2 armies on a field of ash and asks who wins. Kang closes his eyes. He doesn't use his power. He lets the answers surface from somewhere deeper. He says neither. He says the field swallows them both before the battle ends. The carvings flare white. Correct. The second question is about a choice Kang will face before the year ends. Power or mercy, and which one he'll reach for when both are offered. He says mercy, not because he's a good man, because power without mercy is just a faster way to die alone. The voice is silent for a long moment. Correct. The third question is different. The voice asks why he wants the ring, not what he'll use it for. Why? Kang thinks about the green sludge dripping from his hair and the students laughing. He thinks about Seo Jae-kyung's thumb tapping once on his desk. He thinks about Han Soo-mi standing in a broken bus stop at 2 in the morning because he asked her to. He says he wants to see the truth. Even the parts that hurt. Even the parts that make him want to quit. He says he's been blind long enough. The carvings go dark. Then they blaze so bright Kang has to shield his eyes. The voice says he is worthy. Kang picks up the ring. The stone is cold but not unpleasant, like pressing your palm against a window in winter. He slides it onto his finger, and the world becomes a lattice. That's the only word for it. Every object in the room is suddenly connected to every other object by threads of light. Cause and effect made visible. The pedestal didn't just hold the box. It was placed exactly there because the founder knew someone Kang's height would reach for it, at exactly this angle, in exactly this light. The carvings aren't decoration. They're a map of every possible future the founder could see before the ring broke him. And Han Soo-mi, standing in the doorway with her duffel bag and her patient eyes. The threads around her are brighter than anything else in the room. The ring shows Kang exactly what she becomes. Not a bullied girl, not a struggling student, a warrior, a protector, someone who stands between the weak and the wolves and never steps back. The percentage for her future being extraordinary is 100%. Kang takes the ring off. The lattice vanishes. Han Soo-mi asks if he's okay. He says he's better than okay. He says he just saw the next 10 years. She asks if they win. He doesn't answer. He just says they should get back before the sun comes up. They climb out of the ruin of echoes, and the first gray light is touching the eastern peaks. Kang reseals the door with the key and buries it deeper this time. The ring is in his pocket, not on his finger. He's not ready to wear it full time. The founder's notes warned about temporal dissociation, and Kang isn't arrogant enough to think he's stronger than the man who built this academy. But he has it. The origin point of his own ability. The artifact that proves the founder saw the same numbers and made the same choices and paid the same price. The percentage that the ring will be crucial in the coming weeks is 98%. The percentage that Seo already knows he has it is 31%. Low, but climbing. They reach the bus stop just as the 610 route pulls up. Han Soo-mi falls asleep against the window before they hit the city limits. Kang watches the mountains shrink in the reflection and touches the ring through his pocket. He has 2 weeks and 6 days until the review. He has one student who just proved she'll follow him into a mountain in the dark. He has a ring that shows him the shape of the future and a power that tells him the odds of reaching it. The percentage for SEO moving against him this morning is 83%. The percentage for Yang Hae-rim, being the one who sent the ambush squad, is 77%. The percentage that the tall figure from the archives is someone above both of them is 62%. Kang doesn't check the percentage for winning. He doesn't need to. The bus rolls back through the academy gates, and Han Soo-mi stirs awake and asks what happens now. Kang says they train harder. He says the exhibition match was just step 1. He says the real test is coming, and this time it won't be in a tournament ring. It'll be in the dark places where the academy hides its secrets, and when it comes, they'll be ready. Not because the numbers say so, because they've already come too far to stop. The bus drops them at the academy's east gate, just as the sun clears the wall. Han Soo-mi rubs sleep from her eyes and asks if they're training today, or if she gets breakfast first. Kang doesn't answer. He's staring at the gate. The percentage that something is waiting on the other side is 94%. He tells her to stay 3 steps behind him and keep her left hand free. She doesn't ask why. She just drops her duffel bag off her shoulder and shifts her stance. They step through the gate into the east courtyard, and the morning is too quiet. No early students, no groundskeepers, no birds. The fountain in the center of the courtyard has been drained, and the stone basin is bone dry. Kang's power flickers, and the number barely stabilizes before jumping again. Seo's elite squad is already in position, 4 of them. Kang can feel the mana signatures before he sees the bodies. They're ranked B+ at minimum, and they've been waiting long enough that the frost on the cobblestones is melted in 4 distinct circles around their feet. The squad leader steps forward. Tall guy, close-cropped hair, a scar that runs from his left eyebrow down to the corner of his mouth like someone tried to fillet his face and missed. He introduces himself as Instructor Cha Min-jun of the Disciplinary Enforcement Unit. He says Kang Do-yoon is being detained for unauthorized removal of academy property. Han Soo-mi's breath catches. Kang doesn't move. He asks what property. Cha Min-jun says the perception ring. He says Seo Jae-kyung filed a formal report 90 minutes ago, and the tracking sigil on the ring confirms it entered the academy through this gate less than 60 seconds ago. Kang's hand is in his pocket, and the ring is cold against his fingers. The percentage that Cha Min-jun is bluffing about the tracking sigil is 12%. The percentage that the ring actually has a tracker Kang didn't detect is 89%. Big mistake. He asks Cha Min-jun to show him the warrant. Cha Min-jun smiles, and the scar twists. He says the disciplinary enforcement unit doesn't need warrants. He says Kang can hand over the ring now, or they can take it off him in the infirmary. Kang looks at the 4 instructors and the dry fountain and the empty courtyard. The percentage that he can talk his way out of this is 3%. The percentage that he can fight all 4 and win is 11%. The percentage that Han Soo-mi gets hurt if the fight happens is 96%. He says he'll cooperate. He pulls the ring from his pocket and holds it up. The void opal catches the morning light and doesn't reflect it. It just swallows. Cha Min-joon reaches for it, and Kang slides the ring onto his finger. The world becomes a lattice. The threads are everywhere. Cha Min-joon's arm moving toward him is a bright red line, and Kang can see exactly where it will be in half a second and exactly where he needs to move to not be there. He steps sideways. Cha Min-joon's hand closes on empty air. The red line recalibrates, and Kang sees the punch coming before Cha Min-joon's shoulder even twitches. He ducks it. The 3rd instructor moves, and the lattice shows Kang 3 possible trajectories. He picks the one that puts the instructor's momentum into the 4th instructor's blind spot. They collide. Hard. The 4th instructor goes down. The 3rd stumbles. Han Soo-mi is frozen by the fountain, and the threads around her are screaming, "Danger, danger, danger!" Kang shouts at her to get down. She drops. A blade passes through the space where her head was. Cha Min-joon has a short sword in his hand now, and it's humming with some kind of vibration magic. Kang sees the sword's path mapped out in a cascade of silver lines. He sees every possible block, and every possible dodge, and every possible counter. He picks the one that ends with Cha Min-joon's wrist twisted at an angle that makes him drop the blade. It works. The sword clatters on the cobblestones. Cha Min-joon stares at his empty hand like it betrayed him. But the ring is cold. Colder than it was in the mountain. Kang can feel the cold spreading up his forearm and into his elbow, and the threads are getting brighter and brighter until he can't tell which one is real and which one is the probability of what might happen next. The founder's notes warned about this. Temporal dissociation. The lattice shows him 3 Cha Min-joons now. One is reaching for the sword. One is forming a spell with his left hand. One is shouting into a communication crystal. Kang doesn't know which one is real. He swings at the closest one, and his fist passes through empty air. The real Cha Min-joon's spell hits him in the ribs. Kang feels the impact before he sees it. A concussive blast that lifts him off his feet and slams him into the dry fountain. The ring doesn't come off. His vision fractures into 12 overlapping lattices, and every one of them shows something different. In one, he's already dead. In one, he's winning. In one, Han Soo-mi is screaming, and he can't tell if it's happening right now, or if it happened 10 seconds ago, or if it's going to happen in 30 seconds. He can't tell. Han Soo-mi moves. She doesn't have a weapon, and she doesn't have a plan, and she doesn't have any business charging at a B+ ranked instructor who just put her teacher through a fountain. But she does it anyway. Cha Min-joon turns, and Kang sees it happen in 6 different timelines simultaneously. The one where Han Soo-mi takes the concussive blast to the chest. The one where she dodges left. The one where she dodges right. The one where Kang gets up in time. The one where he doesn't. The one where the ring cracks. He picks the one where he gets up. He doesn't know if he's choosing it, or if the ring is choosing it, or if the lattice is just showing him a future that's already locked in place. But his legs are under him, and he's moving. And Han Soo-mi is dodging right. He puts himself between her and Cha Min-joon. The concussive blast hits him in the sternum. The ring flashes. The void opal splinters. A hairline crack runs from the center of the stone to the band. And every single thread in the lattice snaps at once. Kang is back in the real world. One reality. One Cha Min-joon standing in front of him, with his hand still extended from the spell. One Han Soo-mi breathing hard behind him. One ring on his finger with a cracked stone, and a faint wisp of black smoke rising from the opal. The percentage that the ring still works is 44%. The percentage that Cha Min-joon noticed the crack is 19%. The percentage that So Jae-kyung planned for Kang to wear the ring during the ambush is 91%. That's the part that hits. The tracking sigil, the ambush at the gate, the disciplinary enforcement unit deployed before sunrise. Seo didn't just want the ring back. He wanted Kang to use it. He wanted the temporal dissociation. He wanted Kang swinging at ghosts while his elite squad recorded the whole thing. Cha Min-joon's communication crystal is still active, and Kang can see the faint blue light blinking on his collar. The footage is already being transmitted. Kang pulls the ring off. His hand is shaking. He puts the ring back in his pocket, and the cold stays in his forearm like a splinter. Cha Min-joon says the enforcement unit has everything they need. He says Seo Jae-kyung will present the evidence at a faculty hearing within the hour. He says Kang Do-yoon is suspended pending review, and any attempt to leave academy grounds will be treated as an admission of guilt. The 4 instructors withdraw. Not because they lost, because they already won. The recording is the weapon. Everything else was just theater. Hansumi asks if he's okay. Kang says no. He says So just outplayed him on a level he didn't see coming. He says the tracking sigil was bait, and the ambush was bait, and the fight was bait. The real trap was the ring itself. Seo knew Kang would use it. Seo knew the temporal dissociation would hit at exactly the wrong moment. Seo knew Cha Min-jun's body cam would capture a disgraced teacher swinging at phantoms while his student threw herself into danger. The percentage that the footage makes Kang look unstable and dangerous is 100%. The percentage that the faculty votes to revoke his teaching license by noon is 97%. Hansumi says that's insane. She says Kang won the exhibition match, and he got the ring legitimately, and the real crime is whatever Seo's been hiding in those archives. Kang says none of that matters without proof. He has 2 hours before the hearing, maybe less. He tells Hansumi to go back to her dorm and stay visible and stay safe, and not say a word to anyone about the mountain or the ring or what just happened in the courtyard. She starts to argue. He says this isn't her fight. She says it became her fight the minute she followed him to a bus stop at 2 in the morning. He doesn't have a response to that. He just tells her to trust him. She says she does. She leaves. Kang walks across the east courtyard, and the percentage that Seo's office is currently unguarded is 61%. The percentage that the hidden seam in the wall contains evidence Seo didn't want found is 82%. The percentage that Kang is walking into another trap is 55%. He goes anyway. The main building is waking up. Early students are shuffling toward the dining hall, and a few junior instructors are setting up the morning drills in the west training yard. Nobody looks at Kang. Nobody stops him. The suspension hasn't been announced yet, and Seo's people are probably already in the hearing room setting up the projector. Kang takes the back stairwell up to the 4th floor. Seo's office door is locked. The percentage that the lock has a secondary alarm ward is 73%. Kang doesn't try the door. He goes to the maintenance closet 3 doors down and opens the ventilation panel he used the night of the archive infiltration. The shaft is tight, but it runs past Seo's office. He crawls. The vent above Seo's office has a view of the entire room, and Kang can see the hidden seam in the wall behind Seo's chair. It's still there. A thin vertical line in the wood paneling where the grain doesn't quite match. The percentage that Seo is already inside is 3%. Kang drops from the vent into the office. He moves straight to the seam. His fingers find the catch. A small depression in the wood that only opens when you press it at exactly the right angle with exactly the right amount of pressure. The panel slides sideways. Behind it is a wall safe. Black iron with a 7-pointed star burned into the door. The same symbol that was on the box in the Ruin of Echoes. The same symbol that was on the founder's ledger. The percentage that the safe contains documents linking Seo to the Scarlet Eye is 94%. The percentage that Kang can open the safe without the combination is 8%. But he doesn't need the combination. He has the key. The star-shaped key from the mountain is still in his pocket, and the 7 points match the symbol on the safe exactly. Kang presses the key into the center of the star. The safe clicks open. Inside are 3 items. A manila folder stuffed with papers. A small glass vial filled with a swirling dark substance that makes Kang's power flicker just looking at it. And a leather notebook with Seo Jae-kyung's name stamped on the cover in gold foil. Kang opens the folder first. The papers are experiment logs. Dozens of them. Each one details a trial where a student was exposed to dark mana in controlled doses to see if their abilities would amplify. Most of the student names are redacted, but not all of them. One name near the bottom is Park Ji-yeon. The vial is a sample of the dark mana. The percentage that it matches the residue from Kang's sabotaged training room is 99%. The percentage that it's the same substance the Scarlet Eye uses for their rituals is 96%. Kang opens the notebook. Seo's handwriting is cramped and precise. The first dozen pages are notes on the perception ring, its history, its function, its location. Seo has been looking for it for 3 years. He knew it was in the mountain. He knew the Founder's ruins were keyed to a probability-based test. He knew someone with Kang's ability could retrieve it. He just needed someone to do the dirty work. The next pages are worse. They're correspondence, letters between Seo and someone referred to only as the Eye. Orders to sabotage Kang's class. Orders to plant the tracking sigil on the ring before Kang reached it. Orders to stage the courtyard ambush and capture the footage for the hearing. The final entry is dated yesterday. It says Kang will retrieve the ring before dawn. It says the ambush will push him to wear it. It says the temporal dissociation will make him look unstable on camera. It says the hearing will strip his license. It says by nightfall, the perception ring will be in the possession of the Scarlet Eye, and Kang Do-yoon will be in a cell. The percentage that this notebook is enough to clear Kang's name is 91%. The percentage that it's enough to bury So Jae-kyung is 98%. Kang photographs every page. The experiment logs, the correspondence, the entry about the ring. He pockets the vial of dark mana. He hears footsteps in the hallway. He slides the panel shut and takes the notebook and the folder and climbs back into the ventilation shaft just as the office door opens. Through the vent, he sees Seo Jae-kyung walk in. Seo stops. He stares at the wall behind his chair. He stares at the hidden seam. He doesn't check the safe. He just stands there with his left thumb tapping once against his thigh. Kang crawls backward through the shaft and doesn't breathe until he's back in the maintenance closet. The hearing is in 40 minutes. He has a notebook full of confessions. He has a vial of dark mana. He has a cracked ring that the founder of the academy used to see the shape of the future. And he has one shot to walk into a room full of people who want him gone and show them exactly who Seo Jae-kyung really is. The percentage that the hearing goes the way Seo planned is dropping. Fast. It's at 14% now and still falling. And Seo doesn't know it yet, but he's about to find out. The hearing convenes in the East Wing Assembly Hall at 7 in the morning. Kang Do-yoon walks through the double doors with a manila folder under one arm. The room is already full. 12 board members sit behind a long obsidian table on a raised dais. Director Kwon Eun-woo occupies the center seat with his hands folded on the polished stone. So Jae-kyung stands at the podium, already mid-sentence when Kang enters. So stops talking the moment he sees the folder. Dean An Tae-min sits in the gallery with 3 other faculty members, and his expression is unreadable. Kang takes a seat in the front row, directly facing the board. Seo clears his throat and resumes his prepared statement about stolen academy property and a rogue instructor who broke into a restricted archive. He gestures toward Kang and calls him a danger to the institution. Director Kwon asks Kang if he has anything to say before the board votes. Kang stands. He walks to the podium and sets the folder down without opening it. The percentage that the board votes to strip his license right now is 92%. The percentage that SEO walks out of this room a free man if Kang says nothing is 98%. Kang waits. Seo shifts his weight from one foot to the other. His left thumb taps once against his thigh. Kang looks at Director Kwon and says the board deserves to see evidence before it votes. He opens the folder. The first thing he pulls out is So Jae-kyung's leather notebook with the gold foil stamp. So's face doesn't change. Not yet. Kang holds up the notebook so the board can see the name on the cover, and he asks if Seo recognizes it. Seo says it's his personal journal and demands to know how Kang obtained it. Kang doesn't answer the question. Instead, he opens the notebook to the first flagged page and reads aloud. 3 years of research on the perception ring. Coordinates to the ruin of echoes. A detailed profile of Kang's probability-based ability before Kang ever disclosed it to anyone at the academy. Director Kwon leans forward, his fingers unlace. Kang turns to the correspondence section and reads Seo's letters to someone called The Eye. Orders to sabotage a remedial class. Orders to plant a tracking sigil on a forbidden artifact. Orders to stage an ambush designed to make Kang look unstable on camera during today's hearing. The room goes silent. One board member sets down his coffee cup with a clink that echoes off the stone walls. Seo's jaw tightens. His thumb stops tapping. He tells the board this is a fabrication, and Kang is obviously desperate. Kang pulls out the experiment logs, dozens of pages detailing controlled exposure of students to dark mana for amplification trials. He holds up the page with Park Ji-yeon's name. He asks Seo if Park Ji-yeon knows she was a lab rat. Seo's composure cracks at the edges. A vein stands out on his forehead. His voice rises as he accuses Kang of doctoring documents to cover his own crimes. Kang reaches into the folder one more time. He pulls out the glass vial filled with swirling dark substance. He sets it on the podium with a sharp click and asks Seo what this is. Seo stares at the vial. He doesn't speak. Kang says the residue in this vial matches the substance sprayed on his training room wall 3 weeks ago. He says it matches the dark mana the Scarlet Eye uses for their rituals. He says Seo's own experiment logs confirm the match. Director Kwon's face has gone pale. The board members are whispering to each other, and the whispers are getting louder. Dean An stands up in the gallery and asks Director Kwon if the board intends to act on this evidence. Kwon's mouth opens and closes twice before he manages to speak. He asks Seo if these documents are authentic. Seo says nothing. His left thumb twitches, but doesn't tap. Kang says the board can verify every page with the Academy's own archival records. He says the Forbidden Archive beneath the East Library still contains the artifact registry that matches Seo's notes line for line. He says the proof is sitting in a room directly beneath their feet right now. A board member on the far left pushes back her chair and says she's heard enough. Another one nods. Director Kwon looks at Seo with an expression that's half fury and half something else. Something that looks almost like fear. He tells Seo to surrender his faculty credentials immediately and to consider himself suspended pending a full investigation. Seo doesn't move. He stares at Kang, and his eyes are flat and cold as river stones. Then he unclips the badge from his lapel and sets it on the podium. He turns and walks toward the exit without another word. As he passes Kang, he says one sentence under his breath. He says Kang just made the worst mistake of his life, and he calls him a dead man walking. Kang watches him go. The percentage that Seo Jae-kyung is finished at this academy is 99%. The percentage that Seo Jae-kyung is finished as a threat is not even close. But that's a problem for later. Dean-on catches Kang's eye from the gallery and gives him a single, slow nod. The board spends another hour questioning Kang about how he obtained the evidence. Kang tells them about the note, and the archive, and the ventilation shaft. He leaves out Han Soo-mi entirely. He leaves out the ruin of echoes and the perception ring. By the time they're done, the board votes 12-0 to uphold Seo's suspension and launch a formal investigation. And just like that, Kang walks out of the assembly hall with his job intact and his worst enemy publicly disgraced. Han Soo-mi is waiting in the hallway. She's been there the whole time, pacing a groove into the stone floor. She asks if he's okay. Kang says he's fine. Then he hands her the glass vial and tells her to keep it somewhere safe, because they're going to need it again. The percentage that this is a clean victory is low and dropping fast. But for the first time in weeks, Kang allows himself exactly one deep breath before he gets back to work. That breath costs him 4 seconds and no more. His power flickers once and a new number slides into view. The percentage that director Kwon Eun-woo makes his next move within 24 hours is 100%. Kang doesn't need his ability to know what that move's going to be. Director Kwon backed Seo Jae-kyung publicly for 2 years. He approved the experiment logs. He signed the requisition forms for the dark mana containment vials. His fingerprints are all over this mess, and now the board is going to start asking questions about why. A man like Kwon doesn't sit still while the walls close in. A man like Kwon fights dirty, and he fights fast. Kang has exactly 1 day to prepare for whatever comes next. He spends it with Han Soo-mi in the basement classroom. Not training, planning. He sketches out the academy's power structure on the chalkboard. The board of directors at the top, 10 senior faculty underneath them, including Seo and Dean-on, and a woman named Yang Hai-rim, who Kang has been watching for weeks. Below the faculty, the student body, and the administrative staff, and the maintenance crews, and the auxiliary departments. Somewhere in that web, the Scarlet Eye has people. Kang traces lines between names and draws question marks next to anyone who might be compromised. Han Soo-mi asks how many question marks there are. Kang says, too many. He hands her a copy of the experiment logs and tells her to memorize every name that isn't redacted. She takes the pages without a word and starts reading. The summons arrives at sundown. An administrative clerk knocks on the basement door and hands Kang a sealed envelope with Director Kwon's personal seal stamped into the wax. Kang opens it in front of Han Soo-mi. Kwon challenges Kang Do-yoon to a formal duel for the right to retain his board seat and his position as director. The basis is an ancient academy statute that allows a board member accused of misconduct to clear his name through trial by combat. If Kwon wins, Kang is expelled from the academy permanently, and the evidence against Kwon is sealed. If Kang wins, Kwon resigns immediately and forfeits all claims to his position. The terms are non-negotiable. The duel is scheduled for noon tomorrow in the main courtyard. Han Soo-mi looks up from the experiment logs and asks if Kang is going to accept. Kang folds the letter and tucks it into his jacket pocket. The percentage that accepting the duel is the right move is only 51%. But the percentage that Kang walks away from this without facing Kwon at all is 0. He tells Han Soo-mi to get some sleep because tomorrow is going to be a very long day. She doesn't sleep. Neither does Kang. He spends the night in the basement classroom studying Kwon's combat history on his phone. Kwon Eun-woo is a retired field operative, 53 years old with 30 years of combat experience in monster suppression and interdimensional threat response. His official rank is A+, which puts him in the top 0.5% of all active mages in the country. His specialty is earth manipulation. He can turn a courtyard into a killing field in under 3 seconds, and he's been training since before Kang was born. Kang's power flickers, and the percentages bounce like a ping-pong ball. Every time he thinks about engaging Kwon directly, the numbers don't settle. They can't. Kwon is experienced enough to counter most of Kang's probability-based advantages through sheer combat instinct. The moment Kang commits to a course of action, Kwon will read his body language and adjust. The probability for any given attack lands somewhere between 30 and 40%, no matter how Kang reframes the approach. So Kang changes the question entirely. He doesn't ask how to beat Kwon in a fair fight. He asks how to win without fighting fair at all. The percentage that Kwon has a weakness Kang can exploit is 94%. Kang narrows the question. What's the weakness? The answer comes in fragments. Kwon's earth manipulation requires contact with the ground. Break the contact, and his power is useless for the split second he's airborne. He's also proud. He'll want to humiliate Kang in front of the entire academy, and he'll draw the fight out to make a show of it. That pride is a lever, and Kang plans to lean on it hard. Morning arrives cold and gray. Heavy clouds roll in from the mountains, and by 11 o'clock, the sky is the color of old iron. Students fill the courtyard bleachers. Faculty line the balconies. The board members take their seats in a covered pavilion at the edge of the training ground. Dean An approaches Kang before the duel starts and asks if he has a plan. Kang says he has numbers. Dean An doesn't smile, but his eyes do something close. He tells Kang not to do anything stupid, and Kang says he'll do his best. Kwon Eun-woo enters the courtyard from the east gate. He's wearing traditional dueling robes in deep blue, and his hands are bare. No weapon, no artifact, just the man and his magic, and 30 years of experience. Kang walks to the center of the courtyard and waits. The referee reads the terms aloud. 1 duel. No outside interference. No killing blows. Victory by submission or incapacitation. The referee drops his hand. Kwon slams his palm into the ground, and the courtyard splits open in a jagged line racing toward Kang's feet. Kang sidesteps and the crack passes him by 6 inches. He doesn't counterattack. He just moves. Kwon punches the air, and a pillar of stone erupts from the ground where Kang was standing half a second earlier. Kang is already somewhere else. He keeps moving and keeps not attacking, and the crowd starts to murmur because it looks like he's running. That's exactly what Kang wants Kwon to think. Kwon's attacks get bigger and flashier because he's putting on a show. He raises a wall of stone behind Kang to cut off his retreat. He summons spikes from the dirt in a ring around Kang's position. He's not trying to end the fight quickly. He's trying to make Kang look weak. The percentage that Kwon's next attack leaves a gap in his defense is 78%. Kang sees the opening before Kwon even throws the punch. Kwon raises both arms to summon a wave of earth that will swallow half the courtyard, and for 1 heartbeat, both of his feet leave the ground. Just a fraction of an inch. Just long enough. Kang moves faster than Kwon expects, because Kang has been holding back his real speed for the entire fight. He closes the distance in 2 steps. He drives his shoulder into Kwon's chest the moment Kwon's feet lose contact with the dirt. Kwon's magic cuts out. The earth wave collapses into loose gravel. Kwon hits the ground on his back with Kang's knee on his sternum, and Kang's right hand pressed flat against his throat. The percentage that Kwon submits is 62%. Kang doesn't wait for the percentage to climb. He leans close and speaks so only Kwon can hear him. He says the scarlet eye is going to burn, and everyone who helped them is going to burn with them. He asks Kwon if he wants to be the first name on the list. Kwon's eyes go wide, and his mouth opens, and for a second he looks less like a director and more like a man who just realized he's been outplayed. He taps the ground twice. The signal for submission. The referee calls the duel, and the courtyard erupts in noise. Kang stands and offers Kwon his hand. Kwon takes it, and Kang pulls him to his feet. Kwon's legs are unsteady, and his face is gray. He clutches his chest with one hand, and his breathing turns ragged. The percentage that something is wrong jumps to 97% before Kang even finishes the thought. Kwon's eyes roll back. He convulses once and crumples to the dirt. Dean An is the first to reach him. He checks Kwon's pulse, and then his pupils, and then he looks up at Kang with an expression that makes the entire courtyard go quiet. Kwon Eun-woo is dead. Medics rush the field, and a woman on the board is screaming, and someone is shouting to seal the gates. Kang doesn't move. He watches the medics work, and he sees something on Kwon's neck that wasn't there before the fight. A dark mark, thin and spiraling like a coil of smoke trapped under the skin. Dean An sees it too. He pulls Kang aside and asks if Kang knows what that mark is. Kang doesn't, but his power does. The percentage that the mark is a kill switch planted by the Scarlet Eye to silence Kwon before he could be questioned is 98%. Kang tells Dean An what he knows. Dean An's face goes hard as old stone. He says the Scarlet Eye has been watching Kwon for years. He says Kwon was never a true believer. He was bought and paid for. And the moment he became a liability, they cashed him out. Han Soo-mi pushes through the crowd and reaches Kang's side. She's out of breath and holding her phone with the screen lit up. She says someone just sent her a message. Kang takes the phone. The message is 2 words from an unknown number. It says 1 down, and it doesn't say who sent it. Kang hands the phone back and looks at Kwan's body being lifted onto a stretcher. He looks at the dark mark still visible on the dead man's throat. He looks at the board members huddled together in the pavilion and the students being herded back to their dorms by security and the heavy clouds, pressing down on the courtyard like a lid. The percentage that the Scarlet Eye just declared open war is 100%, and Kang Do-yoon is standing in the middle of the battlefield with no allies except one student and one dean, and a ring he's barely learned how to use. The hearing was supposed to be the victory. It wasn't. It was just the first shot. The real fight starts now, and Kang doesn't have the luxury of waiting for it to come to him. He tells Han Soo-mi to pack her gear. He tells Dean-on to lock down the East Library and seal the forbidden archives. Then he walks out of the courtyard with Kwan's blood still drying on his hands and a single number burning in his vision. The percentage that the Scarlet Eye strikes again before nightfall is 99%. And for the first time, Kang isn't sure if the number is a prediction or a promise. Kang doesn't sleep. He sits in the basement classroom with the lights off and watches the numbers flicker across his vision. Every choice he considers produces a percentage that wavers like a candle in a draft. The probability that So Jae-kyung stays suspended drops from 98% to 91% while Kang watches. Then 87. Then 74. Something is wrong with his power and he doesn't know what. Han Soo-mi arrives before sunrise with 2 cups of coffee and dark circles under her eyes. She hasn't slept either. She says the whole dorm is talking about Director Kwan's death, and half the students think Kang murdered him. Kang doesn't answer. He's staring at a water stain on the ceiling, and his jaw is tight. The percentage that his next training session succeeds bounces between 12 and 89% in the space of 3 seconds. Kang tells her to run her footwork drills. She hesitates for exactly 1 breath, then sets the coffee down and starts moving through the patterns. He watches her and tries to calculate the probability that she'll master the 7th form by the end of the week. The number comes up as a negative integer. That's never happened before. Kang closes his eyes and opens them again. Negative 14%. His power is giving him garbage data, and he doesn't know why. He runs a simple test. The probability that the sun rises tomorrow. The number flickers between 44% and 106%, before settling on a question mark. Kang Do-yoon's cheat has been his lifeline for weeks, and now the thing is slipping away like sand through his fingers. He doesn't tell Han Soo-mi. He keeps her drilling footwork and shield forms, and he marks her progress in his log with a pen instead of his power. His handwriting is shakier than usual. By midday, the numbers have degraded further. The probability that Dean-on will visit the classroom shows as a shade of purple Kang can physically taste. It tastes like copper and burnt sugar. He shoves the sensation aside and keeps working. Dean-on does visit at 2 in the afternoon, and the look on his face tells Kang everything his power won't. The board held an emergency session. So Jae-kyung's suspension has been challenged by a formal petition signed by 7 senior faculty members. The investigation is stalled, pending review, and Seo hasn't been in his quarters for 6 hours. Kang asks where he is. Dean-on says nobody knows. The security office logged him leaving through the east gate at 8 this morning with a single bag and a woman matching Yang Hae-rim's description. Kang's power offers him the smell of ozone and a number that is somehow also a scream. He ignores it. He asks Dean-on where Yang Hae-rim's classroom is. Dean-on tells him it's in the West Wing, 3rd floor room 307. But he also tells Kang not to do anything stupid. Kang is already walking. Room 307 is empty and spotless. The desk has been wiped clean with something that smells faintly of bleach. The filing cabinet is unlocked and empty except for a single sheet of paper with 4 words written in elegant cursive. You're already too late. Kang's power shows him a vision of a corridor he's never seen, instead of a percentage. The corridor is lined with obsidian pillars, and at the end of it, something is breathing in the dark. He blinks and the vision is gone, and the paper is still in his hand, and his heart is slamming against his ribs like it wants out. He folds the paper and puts it in his pocket. 2 hours later, Kang is in the faculty garage reviewing what he knows. Seo is free, and Yang Hae-rim is with him, and someone on the board is helping them. The probability of any of this being a coincidence is 0%, and that number at least feels solid. Han Soo-mi finds him there. She's brought the glass vial he gave her, and she's holding it tight in her fist. She says someone tried to break into the dorm last night. They went straight for her room and tried the lock 3 times before the hall monitor scared them off. Kang takes the vial from her, and the liquid inside is swirling faster than it should be. It's reacting to something. Kang's power finally gives him a clean number. The probability that the vial contains a tracking agent is 96%. He swears under his breath. They've been carrying a beacon the whole time, and Seo's people have known exactly where they are for days. Kang tells Han Soo-mi they need to move. He wraps the vial in a cloth and shoves it into a lead-lined equipment case from the storage locker. The case is meant for transporting volatile reagents, but it'll block most tracking signatures. He texts Dean On a single word: compromised. Then he and Han Soo-mi are out the back entrance and cutting through the maintenance tunnels beneath the east courtyard. Kang's power flickers again and gives him something new. Not a percentage, but a location. The image burns into his retina like an after-image from staring at the sun. It's a road outside the Academy's south wall. He knows the curve of that road because he's walked it 100 times. He changes direction, and Han Soo-mi follows without asking. The night air is cold and wet, and the street lamps are buzzing with mana interference. They reach the south gate, and Kang's power hammers the same image into his skull again. The road. The curve. A single flickering light. Kang rounds the corner and sees them. Seo Jae-kyung is standing under a dead street lamp with his hands in his pockets. Young Hae-rim is beside him with a smile that shows too many teeth. And behind them are 6 figures in dark robes with hoods pulled low. The Scarlet Eye didn't just free Seo, they deployed a retrieval squad. Han Soo-mi drops into a combat stance, and Kang's power erupts into a blizzard of impossible numbers. 43% and 200%, and the color blue, and the sound of breaking glass. He can't read any of it. Seo speaks first, and his voice is calm and warm, like they're old friends meeting for coffee. He says he's disappointed. He says Kang had potential. He says he could have looked the other way if Kang had just stayed in his basement and taught his remedial class and kept his head down. Kang doesn't answer. He's watching the 6 figures and trying to calculate an escape route without his power. Young Hae-rim raises her hand, and the air thickens with dark mana. Han Soo-mi's shield forms before Kang can tell her to move. The first attack hits it dead center, and the impact drives her back 3 feet and leaves cracks across the barrier's surface. She holds. Kang moves. He closes the distance to the nearest robed figure and drives an elbow into the base of their skull. They drop. The others converge, and Kang fights blind without percentages or predictions or anything except his training and his instincts and the cold, furious certainty that he is not dying on this road tonight. Han Soo-mi blocks another attack and counterstrikes with a mana burst that catches one of the robed figures in the chest. They stagger. Kang uses the opening to break the next one's knee with a low kick. 2 down, 4 left. Then Seo moves. He crosses the distance in a blur, and his hand closes around Kang's throat before Kang can react. Seo's grip is like iron, and his eyes are flat and empty. He says Kang made the worst mistake of his life, and this time, there won't be a hearing to save him. Kang's power screams a single number into his brain with perfect clarity: 0%. It's the probability that he survives the next 10 seconds. Han Soo-mi screams something Kang can't hear. She throws herself at Seo with her shield blazing and her training sword drawn. Seo swats her aside like she's nothing. She hits the asphalt hard and rolls. And the dark mana from Young Hae-rim's next attack catches her in the shoulder. Han Soo-mi's sleeve dissolves. The skin beneath it turns black. She doesn't scream. Her eyes go wide, and her mouth opens and no sound comes out. Kang twists in Seo's grip and drives his thumb into the soft tissue under Seo's jaw. It's a dirty trick, and it's not enough to break the hold, but it gives him half a second. He uses it. He reaches into his pocket, and his fingers close around the perception ring. He hasn't worn it since the Ruin of Echoes. He knows the cost. He puts it on anyway. The world shatters into a lattice of light and probability threads, and every possible future spins out in front of him at once. Seo's grip loosens by a fraction of a millimeter. Kang sees the gap that will open in 0.2 of a second, and he moves into it before it exists. He's free. He's standing over Han Soo-mi's body. He's blocking Young Hae-rim's next attack with a barrier he doesn't remember casting. The ring burns on his finger, and the lattice is already starting to fray at the edges, and he can feel the dissociation pulling at the seams of his mind, but he doesn't care. He sees the thread that ends with Han Soo-mi dead, and he severs it with a counterspell he pulls from a future where he learned it 5 years from now. He sees the thread where Seo escapes, and he anchors that one with a binding that wraps around Seo's ankles like chains made of light. He sees the thread where the remaining 4 figures attack at once, and he collapses that entire probability branch by detonating a mana pulse directly in front of them. The explosion lights up the street like a second sun. When the light fades, the 4 figures are on the ground, and Young Hae-rim is retreating with her arm over her face, and So is staring at Kang with an expression that contains exactly one thing: fear. Kang's ring cracks. The void opal splinters from edge to center, and the lattice flickers and dims. The voice from the ruin whispers one word in his mind: enough. Kang rips the ring off his finger. He's back in the real world with his chest heaving and blood running from his nose. And Han Soo-mi, unconscious on the asphalt with black tendrils spreading up her neck. Seo is gone. Yang Hae-rim is gone. The 4 downed figures are gone, except for one who didn't escape the mana pulse. Kang drops to his knees beside Han Sumi. He checks her pulse and she's alive, but the dark mana is moving fast, and he doesn't need his power to know she's running out of time. He scoops her up and runs. Dean-on meets him at the south gate with a medical team and a face like carved granite. He sees the black tendrils on Han Sumi's neck, and he doesn't ask questions. He tells the medics to take her to the restricted ward and use Counter-Curse Protocol 7. No one else is authorized to enter. Kang tries to follow, but Dean-on stops him with a hand on his chest. He says Kang looks like death. He says Kang's nose is still bleeding, and his pupils are 2 different sizes, and there's something wrong with the way his left hand is shaking. Kang looks down at his hand. The fingers are translucent. He can see the bones. The ring's cost is landing, and it's landing hard. Dean-on drags him to a private room in the infirmary and locks the door. He tells Kang to sit down and breathe, and explain what the hell just happened. Kang tells him everything. The ambush and the ring and the probabilities collapsing, and so walking free, and Han Sumi taking a dark mana attack meant for him. Dean-on listens without interrupting. When Kang is done, the Dean is quiet for a long moment. Then he says something Kang didn't expect. He says he knows what's happening to Kang's power. Kang asks how. Dean-on unbuttons his collar and pulls it down. On his chest is a mark Kang recognizes. It's the same spiral. The same dark coil of smoke trapped under the skin, smaller than Kwan's and older, but unmistakably the same. Dean-on says the Scarlet Eye planted it on him 12 years ago when he first started investigating them. It's not a kill switch, it's a disruptor. It interferes with any ability that relies on probability or precognition or future sight. The closer the Scarlet Eye gets, the worse the interference becomes. Dean-on says Kang's power isn't breaking, it's being jammed. He says there's a way to fight it, but it's old and dangerous, and Kang isn't going to like it. Kang says he doesn't care. Tell him. Dean-on tells him about a meditation technique created by the Academy's founder. The same founder who made the perception ring. The technique isn't about seeing probabilities, it's about becoming the probability, dissolving the boundary between the observer and the outcome. The founder used it to stabilize his own perception after wearing the ring for decades. It's the only thing that can shield Kang's power from the Scarlet Eye's jamming. But it takes weeks to learn, and Kang has 2 weeks and 5 days until the review, and Han Sumi is in a medical ward with dark mana crawling toward her heart. Kang asks if the technique will save her. Dean-on says no, but it'll save Kang. And if Kang is still standing when the review comes, then maybe he can save everything else. Kang looks at his translucent fingers and the cracked ring in his pocket and the blood drying on his face. The percentage that he can learn a centuries-old meditation technique in 2 weeks without his power to guide him is a number he can't see. But he already knows the answer. He's going to try anyway. Dean-on nods and opens the door and says training starts at dawn. Kang walks to the restricted ward and sits down in a chair next to Han Sumi's bed. She's pale and still, and the black tendrils have stopped spreading, but they haven't receded either. The counter-curse bought them time, but not much. Kang pulls out his phone and texts the one person who might be able to help, the note's sender. The woman who shoved a message into his chest and vanished. He types 4 words. I need your help. Then he puts the phone away and watches Han Sumi breathe and waits for the sun to come up. The Scarlet Eye has Seo and Yang Hae-rim, and a disruptor that can jam his power. Kang has 1 student fighting for her life and 1 cracked ring, and 1 meditation technique he doesn't know how to learn. The odds are worse than they've ever been. But Kang Do-yoon made his choice in a bathroom weeks ago, with green sludge still wet on his clothes, and a glowing percentage hanging in the air. He chose to fight then. He chooses to fight now. Dawn breaks over the academy, and somewhere in the West Wing a clock starts ticking. 2 weeks and 5 days until the review. The Scarlet Eye has already made its next move. Kang just doesn't know what it is yet, but he will. Dawn comes cold and gray over the academy rooftops. Kang Do-yoon hasn't slept, and his left hand still flickers when he looks at it wrong. The translucent fingers come and go like a bad signal on an old TV. Dean-on is already waiting for him in a training chamber Kang didn't know existed. It's buried beneath the East Wing, and the door looks like a solid stone wall, until Dean-on presses 7 specific bricks in sequence. The wall slides open without a sound, and the air that rushes out smells like ozone and old incense. Kang steps inside, and the door seals shut behind him. The chamber is circular and maybe 40 feet across, with a ceiling that disappears into darkness. The floor is inlaid with the same 7-pointed star he saw on the box in the Ruin of Echoes. Dean-on stands in the center with his sleeves rolled up and the spiral mark dark on his chest. He tells Kang this room was sealed in 1973 and hasn't been opened since. Nobody alive except Dean-on knows it exists. Kang asks why him. Dean-on says because Kang is wearing the founder's ring, and the founder built this room for exactly one purpose: to teach someone how to survive it. He points to a spot on the floor directly over the star's center and tells Kang to sit. Kang sits. The stone is cold, and the cold seeps straight through his clothes and into his bones. Dean-on sits across from him and says the technique is called empty vessel. It isn't about emptying your mind like normal meditation. It's about emptying your sense of self. The boundary between you and the outcome has to dissolve. Kang asks how that helps with the jamming. Dean-on says the disruptor works by inserting noise between Kang and the future he's trying to read. If Kang is the future, then there's no gap for the noise to fill. No observer means no signal to jam. Kang says that sounds insane. Dean-on says it is, and the founder spent 11 years learning it, and the founder was a genius. Our boy has 2 weeks. Dean-on tells him to close his eyes. Kang closes them, and the darkness behind his eyelids is just darkness. No percentage floats there, and no second number appears, and his power is completely silent. Dean-on's voice tells him to picture a single outcome, something small and immediate. The next breath he takes, the next word Dean-on speaks. Kang focuses on Dean-on's next word. The word is stone, and Kang hears it as soon as he thinks it, and the timing is exact. Dean-on says that's the first step, and it took the founder 3 months. Kang opens his eyes, and Dean-on is staring at him with an expression Kang can't read. He asks Kang if he felt anything strange when the word landed. Kang says no, and that's the truth. Dean-on doesn't look convinced. He tells Kang to close his eyes again, and this time, he doesn't give him a target. He just tells him to let go of the idea that Kang Do-yoon is a person sitting in a room. Kang tries. He pictures himself as a stone on the floor, and then as the floor itself, and then as the air above the floor. Each time his mind snaps back to his body like a rubber band. His heart rate climbs, and his breathing gets shallow, and the translucent fingers on his left hand flicker faster. Dean-on's voice cuts through and tells him to stop. Kang opens his eyes, and his pupils are 2 different sizes again, and a thin trickle of blood is running from his nose. Dean-on hands him a cloth and says, "That's normal." The founder bled from his ears for the first 6 months. Kang wipes his nose and asks what he's doing wrong. Dean-on says he's doing nothing wrong. And the problem is that Kang's power is screaming at him from inside his own head. Every time he lets go of himself, the power tries to calculate the probability that he'll find himself again. It's a paradox loop, and the disruptor makes it worse. Kang asks how to break the loop. Dean-on says he has to train somewhere the disruptor can't reach him. Kang asks where that is. Dean-on points down. Beneath the floor of this chamber, and beneath the stone, and beneath the academy itself. There's a second room. It was built directly under the foundation, and it's lined with void opal dust, the same material the perception ring is made from. The dust creates a dead zone, and no signal can pass through it. Not mana, and not disruptor pulses, and not Kang's own ability. In that room, Kang won't be able to see any percentages at all. Dean-on says it's dangerous. The founder only used it 3 times, and each time it nearly killed him. Kang asks why. Dean-on says because void opal doesn't block probability, and it unmakes it. Inside that room, Kang's power won't be jammed, and it will simply not exist. For however long he's down there, he'll be completely ordinary. Kang looks at his translucent fingers, and the cracked ring in his pocket, and the blood on the cloth. He asks if it will work. Dean-on says he doesn't know, and there's no way to calculate it. That's the point. Kang Do-yoon stands up and tells Dean-on to open the door. Dean-on hesitates for exactly 3 seconds. Then he walks to the edge of the chamber and presses his palm against a specific stone. A section of the floor slides away, and a spiral staircase drops into darkness. The stairs are narrow, and the walls are rough-hewn, and the air gets colder with every step. Dean-on doesn't follow. He tells Kang he'll seal the door and come back in 6 hours. If Kang isn't breathing by then, he'll bury him under the stone and tell no one. Kang asks if that's a joke. Dean-on's face says it isn't. Kang descends. The staircase goes down 47 steps and ends at a door made of the same, not quite silver, not quite bone material as the ring. The moment Kang touches the handle, every percentage in his vision vanishes. Not flickers, not drops, vanishes. His head goes quiet in a way it hasn't been quiet since the green sludge dried on his clothes. He opens the door and steps into absolute nothing. The room is small and square, and every surface is coated in fine black dust. The dust absorbs all light and all sound, and after a few seconds, Kang can't tell if his eyes are open or closed. He sits down in the center of the floor and tries to breathe, and even the sound of his own lungs feels distant. There's no probability here, no outcome, and no choice, and no future, and no past. Just Kang Do-yoon and the dark. The first hour is the hardest thing he's ever done. His mind keeps reaching for numbers that aren't there. and the absence feels like falling, and the falling never stops. He grips the cracked ring in his pocket until his knuckles ache. Sometime in the second hour, he stops reaching. The silence settles into his bones, and the falling becomes floating. And he remembers something Dean On said. Empty vessel isn't about emptying your mind. It's about becoming the outcome. He doesn't try to picture himself as a stone, or the floor, or the air. He stops picturing anything. He is the breath. He is the heartbeat. He is the dark and the dust and the cold. He is the probability, and there is no difference between the observer and the thing observed. The third hour passes, and Kang Do-yoon doesn't feel it pass. The fourth hour passes, and he doesn't feel that either. Time becomes a thing that happens to other people. When Dean On opens the door at the 6-hour mark, Kang is sitting exactly where he left him. But something is different. Kang's left hand is solid again. The flickering is gone. His pupils are the same size, and the blood on his face is dry, and there's a stillness in his expression that wasn't there before. Dean On asks if he's still alive. Kang stands up and his legs don't shake, and his voice is calm. He says yes, and he understands it now. Dean On asks what he understands. Kang says the disruptor can't jam him if he's not transmitting. He doesn't need to read probabilities from the outside anymore. He can feel them from the inside. It's not a percentage floating in his vision, and it's a pressure in his chest, and a hum in his bones, and a certainty that moves before thought. Dean On stares at him for a long moment. Then he says the founder described it the same way. Kang asks what happened to the founder. Dean On says he disappeared 23 years ago, and no one knows where he went, and the official records say he retired. But Dean On doesn't believe that. He thinks the founder went after the Scarlet Eye and never came back. Kang files that away for later. Right now he has one priority. He walks up the spiral staircase and out of the chamber, and straight to the restricted ward. Han Soo-mi is still unconscious, and the black tendrils are still frozen mid-creep, and the counter curse is still holding. Kang sits in the chair next to her bed and closes his eyes. He doesn't reach for his power, and he doesn't try to see a percentage. He just sits and breathes, and lets the silence in his head do its work. After a few minutes, something shifts. It's not a number, and it's not a vision, and it's something deeper, a certainty. He knows that she'll wake up. He doesn't know when and he doesn't know how, but the knowing itself is solid, like a stone dropped into still water. Dean On appears in the doorway with a cup of coffee and a grim expression. He hands Kang the coffee and says they need to talk. Kang takes the coffee and follows him to a private office on the 3rd floor. The office has soundproofing seals on every wall. Dean On locks the door and sits down and rubs the spiral mark on his chest. He says the disruptor is getting worse. Not just for Kang, for him too. The Scarlet Eye knows Kang is training, and they're accelerating their timeline. Kang asks what timeline. Dean On tells him. The Scarlet Eye has been planning something for years, and the Academy is the center of it. They're not just experimenting on students. They're preparing a ritual, a mass sacrifice that will take place during the eclipse. Kang's blood goes cold. The eclipse is 3 weeks away. Dean On says the ritual requires a specific number of vessels, and each vessel must have their mana forcibly awakened using dark mana amplification. The same process Seo was running on Park Ji-yeon, and who knows how many others. Once the vessels are primed, the Scarlet Eye will activate them all at once during the eclipse's peak. The energy release will tear a hole between dimensions. Kang asks what comes through the hole. Dean On says nobody knows, and that's the point. The Scarlet Eye believes something is waiting on the other side, something that will reward them for opening the door. They've been building toward this for decades, and the Academy is the largest concentration of untapped mana vessels in the country. Every student is a potential sacrifice. Kang asks how many students they need. Dean On says the ritual requires 108 vessels. Kang asks how many are already primed. Dean On doesn't address right away. Then he says, at least 60, maybe more. Kang sets down his coffee and stands up. His chest hums, and his bones thrum, and the certainty is a blade in his mind. He asks where the ritual chamber is. Dean On says he doesn't know yet, and the Scarlet Eye moves it every cycle to avoid detection. But he knows how to find it. The disruptor mark on his chest is linked to the ritual's power source. The closer he gets to the chamber, the more the mark will react. It'll be like a compass. Kang asks why Dean On hasn't used it already. Dean On says because the closer he gets, the more the disruptor damages him too. If he gets too close, the mark will stop his heart, just like it stopped Kwan's. Kang asks if Kwan was marked too. Dean On says everyone who serves the Scarlet Eye is marked. It's how they control their agents. Kwan didn't die from the duel, and he died because the Scarlet Eye triggered his mark remotely. Kang asks why. Dean On says because Kwan was about to talk. One of the board members saw Kwan's hand moving toward his pocket right before he convulsed. He was reaching for something. Evidence he'd been carrying in case they ever turned on him. Kang asks where the evidence is now. Dean-on says the board confiscated Kwan's personal effects, and it's sitting in a locked evidence room in the Central Administration Building. Nobody has examined it yet, because the investigation into Kwan's death just opened this morning. Kang asks who's leading the investigation. Dean-on says a special prosecutor from the Ministry of Magical Affairs, and she's arriving in 3 days. Her name is Prosecutor Yoon Seo-hyun, and she has a reputation for being thorough and incorruptible and completely terrifying. Kang asks if they can trust her. Dean-on says the Scarlet Eye has agents everywhere, and there's no way to know. But she's his best chance. If Kang can get Kwan's evidence into her hands without it being intercepted, then maybe they can expose the ritual before the eclipse. Kang asks how they get the evidence. Dean-on says that's the hard part. The evidence room is warded against mana and sealed with a 7-layer lock. Only the board members have access, and the board is compromised. Kang thinks about the hidden seam in Seo's office, and the access logs, and the photographs on his phone. He thinks about the perception ring, and the void opal dust, and the 6 hours he spent in the dark. The hum in his chest sharpens into a plan. He tells Dean-on he'll get the evidence himself. Dean-on asks how. Kang says he's been invisible his whole career, and nobody watches the basement, and nobody guards the back stairwells, and nobody thinks the disgraced teacher with the failing class is a threat. He's been training Han Soo-mi in a courtyard for 2 weeks, and nobody stopped him. He walked into the forbidden archives and walked back out, and nobody noticed. He beat Director Kwan in a duel, and everyone thinks it was luck. Kang Do-yoon has spent his entire life being underestimated. For the first time in his life, that's an advantage. Dean-on is quiet for a long moment. Then he asks about the disruptor. Kang raises his left hand and shows him the fingers. Solid and steady and still. He says the disruptor can't touch him anymore. He doesn't need his power to win this fight. He just needs to be smarter than the people who think he's nothing. Dean-on looks at Kang's hand, and then at Kang's face, and then at the spiral mark on his own chest. He says the founder would have been proud. Kang doesn't answer. He's already calculating. 3 days until the prosecutor arrives, and 60 primed vessels, and 108 sacrifices needed, and an eclipse that's coming no matter what anyone does. The Scarlet Eye has spent decades building toward this moment. Kang Do-yoon has spent 6 hours in a dark room learning how to become the outcome. It's not enough time, and it's not enough training, and the odds are worse than any percentage his power ever showed him. But Kang made his choice weeks ago in a bathroom with green sludge still wet on his clothes. He chose to fight then, and he chooses to fight now. He walks out of Dean-on's office and heads toward the Central Administration Building. The evidence room is 3 floors up and sealed with 7 locks. Kang Do-yoon has until the prosecutor arrives to figure out how to open every single one. The service entrance to the library basement smells like old paper and wet stone. Kang Do-yoon stands in the dark with his palm pressed flat against a cold metal door. His phone is off, and the perception ring is in his pocket, and his breathing is slow. He doesn't need probabilities for this part. He's been mapping the library's blind spots for 2 weeks. The security rotation shifts at 2:14 a.m., and the camera above the service hatch has a 7-second blind spot, and the lock is mechanical, not magical. Old building, old habits. Kang pulls a tension wrench and a pick from his jacket and goes to work. 3 pins click in sequence, and the lock turns. He slips inside and pulls the door shut behind him. The basement archive is a maze of steel shelving units that haven't been reorganized since the academy was built. Dust coats everything. Kang moves through the stacks toward the east wall, where Dean-on's intel placed a secondary staircase. The staircase isn't on any official map. Neither is the sub-basement beneath it. Halfway down the stairs, Kang feels the disruptor hum against his ribs. Not his disruptor, the one Dean-on described. The closer he gets to the ritual chamber, the more the mark reacts. Kang pauses and presses his hand to his chest. Nothing hurts yet. He keeps going. At the bottom of the stairs, the air changes, cold and thick and humming with something that isn't quite sound. Kang crouches behind a stack of crumbling ledgers and peers into the sub-basement chamber. It's bigger than it should be. The ceiling vaults upward into darkness, and the walls are covered in carvings that glow with the same faint blue light as the ruin of echoes. At the center of the room, a circle of 12 figures in dark robes stands around a stone altar. Their hoods are up, and their faces are hidden. On the altar, a 13th figure lies bound and unconscious. Kang recognizes the uniform. It's a third-year student from the advanced combat track, one of the 60 primed vessels Dean-on mentioned. The Scarlet Eye's leader stands at the head of the altar with both hands raised. A black crystal hovers above the student's chest and pulses with dark mana. The same dark mana that was in the glass vial. The same dark mana that was sprayed on Kang's training room wall. Kang counts the exits and counts the guards, and counts the seconds between each pulse of the crystal. 4 exits. 8 guards with visible weapons, 12 robed figures plus the leader. The odds are trash. But Kang isn't here to fight. He's here to gather evidence and get out. He pulls out his phone and starts recording. The leader speaks and his voice is low and resonant and sounds like stones grinding together underwater. He says the eclipse is in 4 days. He says the 108 sacrifices are nearly ready. He says the founder's seal will finally break, and the gate will open, and the old blood will return. Kang's jaw tightens. The founder's seal. The same founder who built this academy. The same founder who created the perception ring. The Scarlet Eye isn't just a cult. They're trying to undo everything the academy was built to protect. Kang zooms in on the leader's hand. A ring glints on his finger. 7-pointed star in black iron with silver inlay. Identical to the key Kang used at the Ruin of Echoes. The pieces click together in his mind like lock pins. The ring and the key and the carvings and the altar. They're all part of the same mechanism. A mechanism designed to be used. Kang's hand drifts toward the perception ring in his pocket. He hesitates. The ring's side effect is temporal dissociation. Wearing it here could scramble his sense of reality in the middle of a hostile room. But he needs to know what the leader is about to do next. He slips the ring onto his finger. The world fractures. The lattice of probabilities blazes into view, and every object in the room is connected by threads of light. And every thread pulses with a different future. Kang sees the student on the altar, and the thread leading from the black crystal to his chest, and the branch where the crystal activates and the student's mana is drained completely. He sees the probability that the student survives if the ritual completes. 12%. He sees the probability that the Scarlet Eye succeeds in opening the gate if Kang does nothing. 89%. He sees the probability that he can stop it tonight. 7%. Kang pulls off the ring. 7% isn't zero. He keeps recording. The leader lowers his hands, and the crystal stops pulsing. He says the ritual requires one final component, the blood of someone who has touched the founder's power directly. One of the robed figures steps forward and pulls back his hood. It's So Jae-kyung. He doesn't look suspended anymore. He looks like a man who has nothing left to lose. Seo says he knows where to find the component. He says Kang Do-yoon went to the Ruin of Echoes. He says Kang has the ring. Kang's grip tightens on his phone. Seo tells the leader that Kang's student Han Soo-mi knows the path to the ruin. They can use her to find it. The leader nods and says they'll move in the morning. 3 of the robed figures bow and leave the chamber. Kang knows exactly where they're going. He stops recording and backs away from the edge of the stack. He has enough evidence. Now he needs to move faster than the 3 assassins heading toward Han Soo-mi's dormitory. He climbs the stairs 2 at a time and bursts out of the service entrance into the cold night air. His phone is already dialed. Han Soo-mi answers on the second ring. Her voice is groggy and confused, and Kang doesn't waste time on pleasantries. He tells her 3 Scarlet Eye agents are coming for her. He tells her to grab the glass vial and her notebook and get to Dean On's office immediately. He tells her not to stop for anyone. She asks what's happening. Kang says the cult is moving, and she's their next target. He hears her bed creak and her footsteps hitting the floor, and then the line goes quiet. She says she's already running. Kang cuts across the courtyard toward the Central Administration Building. His chest is humming, and his head is splitting, and the disruptor mark thrums like a second heartbeat. Dean On's warning was accurate. The closer he gets to the ritual chamber, the harder it is to breathe. But he's not heading back to the chamber. He's heading to the evidence room. 3 floors up, and 7 locks and a prosecutor arriving in 3 days. He doesn't have 3 days anymore. He has tonight. The Central Administration Building is dark and silent, and the front entrance is locked with a biometric seal. Kang doesn't bother with the front entrance. He circles around to the maintenance hatch on the east side and drops into the basement utility corridor. The corridor runs beneath the entire building. It connects to the evidence room through a ventilation shaft that was decommissioned after the fire in 2008. Kang found the blueprints in the Forbidden Archives 3 days ago. He memorized every junction and every grate and every blind corner. He crawls through the shaft with his phone flashlight clenched between his teeth. The disruptor hum grows louder, not from proximity to the ritual chamber, from proximity to the evidence room. Kang pauses at the final junction. His hand is shaking. He looks at his fingers. Still solid, still his. He forces himself forward. The ventilation grate above the evidence room is bolted from the inside. Kang braces his back against the shaft wall and kicks the grate twice. The bolts shear, and the grate clatters onto the tile floor. He drops into the room. The evidence room is a concrete box with no windows and 1 door, and walls lined with sealed lockboxes. A single red light blinks on the security panel beside the door, the 7-layer lock. Kang doesn't try to pick it. Instead, he walks to lockbox 17 and pulls out his phone and scrolls through the photographs he took of the artifact registry. At the bottom of the ledger page, There's a tiny notation. Coordinates for Containment Site 7. He cross-references the coordinates with the Academy's internal grid. Containment Site 7 isn't in the Forbidden Archives. It's in this room. Lockbox 17. The lockbox doesn't open with a key. It opens with a resonance frequency embedded in the founder's seal. Kang pulls the perception ring from his pocket and slips it on again. The lattice blazes. He sees the lockbox's internal mechanism as a web of threads and vibrations and dead ends. One thread glows brighter than the others, a frequency that matches the 7-pointed star on the ring. Kang presses the ring against the lockbox's seal, and the box clicks open. Inside is Director Kwan's personal evidence pouch, sealed and untouched. Kang opens it. A small data chip wrapped in anti-mana cloth and a handwritten note in Kwan's cramped script. The note lists 12 names, board members and senior faculty and government liaisons. Every single one is marked with the scarlet eyes symbol. Kang photographs every page. The door behind him clicks. He freezes. Young Hae-rim steps into the evidence room with a dark smile and a spell already glowing in her palm. She says she was wondering when he'd show up. Kang backs against the lockbox and his fingers curl around the data chip. The disruptor hum spikes. Yang's spell isn't aimed at him. It's aimed at the ventilation shaft he just crawled through. She fires. The shaft collapses, and the ceiling caves in, and Kang throws himself sideways as concrete and rebar crash down between him and the exit. He lands hard on his shoulder, and the data chip skitters across the floor. Yang picks it up. She says the Scarlet Eye appreciates his hard work. She says they were having trouble breaking the seal on Kwan's evidence box. She says Kang just did it for them. She crushes the chip in her fist. Kang stares at the fragments of plastic and metal on the floor, and the humiliation hits him like a physical blow. He walked into a trap. Again. The percentage that he should have seen this coming is meaningless now. Yang raises her hand to finish him. Then the door behind her explodes inward. Han Soo-mi stands in the doorway with her training shield raised and the glass vial in her other hand. Her eyes are wild, and her breathing is ragged, and she looks nothing like the girl who couldn't hold a shield 4 weeks ago. She hurls the vial at Yang's feet. The glass shatters, and the dark substance inside splashes across the floor, and Yang's spell fizzles. Dark mana reacts badly to itself. Han Soo-mi shouts at Kang to move. Kang doesn't hesitate. He lunges past Yang and grabs Han Soo-mi's arm and pulls her into the corridor. Yang screams behind them. Not in pain, in fury. Kang runs. He runs through the basement corridor and up the back stairwell and out into the courtyard with Han Soo-mi beside him. His chest is burning and his vision is blurring, and the disruptor mark is screaming. But he's still moving. He tells Han Soo-mi the ritual is in 4 days, and the Scarlet Eye has 60 vessels, and they're going to sacrifice them all during the eclipse. He tells her the evidence is destroyed, and the prosecutor is compromised, and the board is compromised. He tells her they're out of moves. Han Soo-mi stops running. She turns to face him, and her jaw is set, and her knuckles are white around her shield. She says they're not out of moves. She says she knows where the ritual chamber is. She saw it in her notebook. Kang stares at her. She opens the notebook to a page covered in diagrams and footwork patterns, and something else. A map, drawn in the margins of every training session over the past 2 weeks. She says she's been tracking the dark mana residue every time they train. She says it all converges on a single location beneath the East Library, the same location Kang just escaped from. She says she knows how to get back in. Kang looks at the map and looks at the girl who was too scared to throw a punch 4 weeks ago. The hum in his chest eases. The disruptor mark is still burning. But for the first time all night, Kang feels something that isn't fear. He feels hope. He tells Han Soo-mi they need allies. He tells her to wake every student who owes her a favor, and every teacher who refused the Scarlet Eye's recruitment. He tells her to meet him at the old bus stop in 2 hours. She asks where he's going. Kang says he's going to break into Dean On's office and steal every file the old man has been compiling for 30 years. Then he's going to do something he should have done weeks ago. He's going to tell the entire academy the truth. He turns and walks toward the faculty building. The eclipse is in 4 days. Kang Do-yoon has 2 hours to build an army. The odds are still 7%, but 7% has never stopped him before. The door to Dean On's office is already open. Dean On sits at his desk with a stack of files in front of him and a cup of cold coffee at his elbow. He looks up when Kang walks in. He says he's been expecting him. He says the disruptor mark has been burning for hours, and he knew Kang was getting closer to the truth. He pushes the stack of files across the desk. 30 years of documentation on the Scarlet Eye, recruitment lists and ritual sites, and names of every compromised official in the government. Kang asks why Dean On never released it. Dean On says because no one would believe him. He says the Scarlet Eye has spent decades discrediting anyone who tried to expose them. He says Kang is the first person who ever got close enough to make a difference. Kang looks at the files and looks at Dean-on's pale face and looks at the disruptor mark glowing faintly through his shirt. The spiral is pulsing now. Dean-on doesn't have much time left. Kang tells him the prosecutor is compromised. Dean-on nods. He says he suspected as much. He says there's one person left who might help them. He reaches into his desk and pulls out a worn photograph. A woman in military uniform with sharp eyes and a jaw like a blade. Dean-on says her name is General Min Soo-ji, and she commands the National Magical Defense Force. She was the founder's last student. She's been hunting the Scarlet Eye for 40 years. Kang asks where she is. Dean-on says she's 2 hours away at the Eastern Garrison. He says if Kang can reach her before dawn, she might believe him. Kang takes the photograph. He tells Dean-on to evacuate the students. Dean-on smiles faintly. He says he's not going anywhere. He says the disruptor has already reached his heart. He says he'll hold off anyone who tries to stop Kang from leaving. Kang opens his mouth to argue. Dean-on raises his hand. He says Kang is the outcome now. He says the founder would be proud. He says go. Kang goes. He runs through the courtyard with Dean-on's files in his arms and the photograph of General Min in his pocket. The Eastern Garrison is 2 hours away. He has 2 hours to convince a legendary general to believe an impossible story. Behind him, the faculty building lights flicker and go dark. Kang doesn't look back. He can't. Han Soo-mi is waiting at the old bus stop with 17 students and 3 junior instructors and a stolen academy transport van. She hands Kang the keys. She says the garrison is 90 minutes if he takes the mountain road. Kang asks about the students. Han Soo-mi says they're the ones who refused the Scarlet Eye's recruitment. She says every single one of them has been waiting for someone to fight back. She says they're ready. Kang looks at the 17 students standing in the dark with borrowed weapons and homemade shields and notebooks full of training diagrams. He looks at Han Soo-mi, who has become something fierce and unbreakable in the space of 4 weeks. He tells them the truth. The ritual is in 4 days, and the Scarlet Eye plans to sacrifice 108 students to break the founder's seal. The board is compromised, and the prosecutor is compromised, and the cult has been planning this for decades. They are outnumbered and outgunned, and the odds are 7%. But 7% is enough. He asks who's coming. Every single hand goes up. Kang nods once. He climbs into the van, and Han Soo-mi climbs in beside him, and the engine roars to life. The headlights cut through the dark like a blade. Kang Do-yoon doesn't need his power to know what happens next. He's already becoming the only outcome that matters. The van's headlights sweep across a checkpoint barrier. 2 soldiers in standard-issue mana attenuation armor step forward, raising their hands. Kang Do-yoon doesn't slow down. He rolls down the window and holds up the photograph of General Min Soo-ji like a badge. The guard squints at the photo, then at Kang's disheveled academy teacher uniform, then at the 17 students crammed into the back of a stolen transport van. He asks what business an academy instructor has at a military garrison at 4 in the morning. Kang tells him the Scarlet Eye is going to sacrifice 108 students in 4 days. The guard's face goes pale. He steps back and waves them through without another word. The barrier rises, and the van roars into the garrison compound. Eastern Garrison is a sprawl of concrete bunkers and training yards lit by humming mana lamps. Soldiers in dark blue fatigues are already mobilizing when they arrive. Dean-on must have gotten word out before the disruptor reached his heart. Han Soo-mi stares out the window at the rows of armored vehicles and artillery pieces calibrated for magical warfare. She whispers that this is bigger than she imagined. Kang tells her the Scarlet Eye has been planning this for decades. He says they need to think bigger, or they've already lost. The van screeches to a halt outside the command bunker. A woman in full general's regalia is already waiting at the entrance. General Min Soo-ji looks exactly like her photograph. Sharp eyes and a jaw like a blade, and gray-streaked hair pulled back in a tight bun. She's 72 years old, and she looks like she could punch through a steel wall. She crosses her arms and regards Kang Do-yoon with open suspicion. She says Dean-on sent a priority alert before his disruptor mark flatlined. She asks why she should trust a disgraced academy teacher who just killed a board director in a duel. Kang doesn't flinch. He hands her the stack of files Dean-on compiled over 30 years. He tells her the ritual is in 4 days, and the Scarlet Eye has already begun preparations. He says 108 students will die if she doesn't act now. General Min opens the top file and scans the first page. Her expression doesn't change for a full 30 seconds. Then she looks up, and her eyes are burning. She says she's been hunting the Scarlet Eye for 40 years. She says she's watched them slip through every investigation and bribe every prosecutor and bury every witness. She asks Kang if he can prove any of this. Kang holds up his phone with the photographs of the ledger pages from the forbidden archives. He holds up the glass vial Han Soo-mi has been carrying since the hearing. He says the dark mana in that vial matches the residue from the ritual sites. He says he has Seo Jae-kyung's experiment logs documenting controlled exposure of students to dark mana for amplification trials. He says the Scarlet Eye murdered Director Kwon during their duel. He says they used a delayed-release poison keyed to mana expenditure. General Min takes the vial and holds it up to the light. The dark substance inside swirls against the glass like something alive. She says she's seen this before. She says 40 years ago, when the founder's last student was hunting the cult's remnants. She says the same dark mana was used in the massacre at Hwangryong Temple. She asks if Kang knows what that means. Kang says it means the cult never went dormant. It means they've been rebuilding inside the academy for 3 decades. General Min nods slowly. Then she turns to her adjutant and starts issuing orders. She wants every available battalion mobilized, and she wants surveillance drones over the academy within the hour. She wants arrest warrants drawn up for every name in Dean On's files. And she wants Kang Do-yoon in her war room in 5 minutes. The war room is a concrete box with a holographic map table and walls covered in tactical displays. Kang spreads Dean On's files across the table, while Han Soo-mi and the 17 students crowd in behind him. General Min's intelligence officers are already cross-referencing names and locations. The scale of the conspiracy becomes horrifyingly clear. The Scarlet Eye has operatives in the government and the military and 3 other major academies. They've been placing disruptor marks on anyone who got too close for 30 years. They've been stockpiling dark mana in hidden caches beneath the academy's foundations. And the ritual chamber is located directly under the central courtyard, right beneath the feet of every student who has no idea what's coming. Kang asks how many soldiers General Min can deploy inside the academy without tipping off the cult's moles. General Min says maybe 200, if they use the old drainage tunnels. She says the tunnels were built during the Founders era, and they connect the garrison to the academy's sublevels. She says the Scarlet Eye's ritual chamber is 30 meters below the courtyard. She says they can breach it from 6 different access points if her engineers can drill through the old sealant. Kang studies the holographic map, and the percentages flicker through his vision. Breach the chamber from the north tunnel, 61%. From the south tunnel, 73%. Coordinate all 6 entry points simultaneously, 89%. He tells General Min to hit all 6 access points at once. He says the cult's defenses will collapse if they can't predict the angle of attack. General Min looks at him like she's reassessing everything she assumed about him. She asks how a disgraced remedial teacher knows military tactics. Kang says he's had a very educational month. Han Soo-mi steps forward and spreads her notebook on the table. It's the same notebook she's been keeping since their first training session. Footwork diagrams and breathing patterns. And now, detailed sketches of the academy's underground layout. She says she mapped the tunnels during her runs. She says she noticed ventilation grates in the basement levels that didn't match the official blueprints. She says the cult has been using them to move dark mana supplies without detection. General Min stares at the notebook for a long moment. Then she laughs. It's not a warm laugh, but it's genuine. She says Dean On was right about Kang. She says the founder would be proud. 4 days pass in a blur of preparation and covert mobilization. Kang trains with General Min's Special Forces unit and learns their breach protocols. Han Soo-mi drills the 17 students until they can execute formation maneuvers in their sleep. The 3 junior instructors who joined them turn out to have combat experience from before they became teachers. One of them was a demolitions expert in the Magical Engineering Corps. He spends 3 days preparing explosive charges keyed to dark mana resonance. The plan is simple and brutal. General Min's 200 soldiers will breach the ritual chamber from 6 directions at midnight on the eclipse. Kang will lead a strike team through the central access shaft to destroy the artifact powering the ritual. Han Soo-mi and the students will evacuate the academy's civilians through the drainage tunnels. Everyone has a role, and everyone knows the odds. The percentage flickers in Kang's vision whenever he thinks about it. Success probability for the entire operation, 8%. It's higher than 7%. He'll take it. Eclipse night arrives with a blood-red moon hanging low over the academy's spires. The courtyard is empty, and the dormitories are dark, and every student has been quietly evacuated to the garrison's safe zone over the past 12 hours. But the ritual chamber beneath the courtyard is blazing with crimson light. Kang crouches in the south tunnel with 20 Special Forces soldiers and Han Soo-mi at his side. The perception ring is on his finger, and the world is a lattice of branching probabilities. He can see the cult's defensive formations glowing like hot coals in the dark. He can see the artifact pulsing at the chamber's center like a malignant heart. He can see Yang Hae-rim standing at the ritual altar with her arms raised and dark mana pouring from her hands. And he can see the 108 students they couldn't evacuate in time. The cult's inner circle grabbed hostages when they realized the academy was emptying. Children from the lower grades and junior instructors who stayed behind to help, and Dean On's secretary. Kang's jaw tightens. He didn't come this far to lose anyone. Now, the clock hits midnight. General Min's voice crackles through the comm unit. 6 charges detonate simultaneously, and the ritual chamber's walls blow inward in a storm of concrete and steel. Soldiers pour through the breaches with mana suppression weapons blazing. The cult's defensive wards flare and shatter under the assault. Kang's strike team surges through the central access shaft and into the heart of the chamber. Yang Hae-rim turns to face them, and her eyes are pits of crimson fire. She screams that Kang is too late. She says the ritual is already 70% complete. She says the Founder's seal will shatter, and the thing beneath the academy will rise. Kang doesn't waste time on banter. He signals his team to fan out, and they engage the cult's inner circle while he advances on the altar. The artifact is a sphere of compressed dark mana 3 meters across. It hovers above the ritual circle and pulses with a light that hurts to look at. 108 students are arranged in concentric rings around it, with disruptor marks glowing on their chests. Kang's probability vision flickers and surges. Every step he takes branches into a dozen possible outcomes. Yang Hae-rim launches a wave of dark mana at him. He sidesteps left, and the attack shears through a stone pillar behind him. She follows up with a volley of corruption-tipped projectiles. He ducks under 2, and deflects a third with a mana pulse from the perception ring. The ring is hot against his finger now, and the lattice is getting brighter. He can see Yang Hae-rim's attack patterns forming before she even moves. It's not prediction anymore. It's certainty. Yang Hae-rim snarls and summons a vortex of dark mana around herself. She says she's been preparing for this fight since the day Kang exposed Seo. She says the Scarlet Eye doesn't forgive, and it doesn't forget. She says Kang's disruptor mark has been active for weeks, and he just hasn't noticed because his body is already breaking down. Kang glances at his chest. The spiral beneath his shirt is glowing faintly red. He didn't notice because he's been too busy fighting to check. The percentage flickers. Survival if the disruptor activates mid-combat. 12%. He decides to end the fight before it can activate. He charges Yang Hae-rim directly. She's not expecting that. Every fight Kang has won so far relied on precision and probability and careful exploitation of weaknesses. Yang Hae-rim prepared for a chess match. She gets a brawl. Kang closes the distance before she can finish casting her next spell. He slams his shoulder into her chest and drives her backward into the ritual altar. The stone cracks under the impact, and Yang Hae-rim's concentration shatters. Her vortex collapses, and dark mana spills across the chamber floor like a wave of ink. She tries to push him off, but Kang grabs her wrists and pins them to the altar. He tells her the ritual ends now. He tells her the Founder's seal isn't breaking tonight. He tells her 40 years of hunting this cult ends with her. Yang Hae-rim laughs through bloodied teeth. She says Kang still doesn't understand. She says the Founder didn't seal something beneath the academy. She says the Founder sealed the academy itself. She says the entire institution was built on top of a convergence point where dark mana seeps through from the other side. She says the Scarlet Eye didn't create the corruption. They've been containing it. And now that Kang has exposed them and dismantled their network and killed their operatives, now there's no one left to hold it back. The artifact pulses with a sound like a death rattle. 108 disruptor marks glow brighter. Kang's own mark is burning now, and his vision is starting to blur. But he doesn't let go of Yang Hae-rim's wrists. He asks if she's telling the truth. The percentage flickers. Truth probability, 94%. Yang Hae-rim says every word is true. She says the Founder built the perception ring to monitor the convergence and keep the seal stable. She says the ring was never meant for combat or probability manipulation. It was a key that Kang has been wearing into battle like a cheap accessory. She says if he wants to save the students, he has to do what the Founder did 50 years ago. He has to channel the dark mana through himself and into the ring and reseal the convergence. And it will kill him. The way it killed the Founder. Kang looks at the artifact and looks at the students and looks at Han Su-mi fighting cultists 30 meters away. She's holding her own with the shield he taught her to summon and the footwork she diagrammed in her notebook. She's become everything he hoped she would become. He doesn't need his power to know what happens next. He lets go of Yang Hae-rim and steps toward the artifact. Yang Hae-rim screams at him to stop. She says he's throwing his life away for students who will never even know his name. Kang doesn't answer. He reaches the artifact and places both hands on its surface. The dark mana surges into him like a flood of frozen fire. His disruptor mark flares white-hot, and his body convulses. The perception ring blazes with light that cuts through the crimson dark. And Kang Do-yoon does what the founder did 50 years ago. He channels. The convergence groans beneath him, and the seal begins to stabilize. But something is wrong. The dark mana isn't just flowing through him. It's being absorbed by the disruptor mark and neutralized before it can reach the ring. Kang's disruptor mark is eating the corruption. The mark the Scarlet Eye planted to kill him is now saving his life and destroying their ritual. Yang Hae-rim's expression crumples from triumph to horror. She whispers that it's impossible. She says, disruptor marks are designed to amplify dark mana, not destroy it. But Kang's mark is different. It's been exposed to his probability ability for weeks, and to the perception ring's resonance, and to whatever the founder built into his own bloodline. The mark has mutated. It's no longer a tool of the cult. It's a weapon. Kang realizes he's not going to die. He's going to win. He pushes harder, and the dark mana flow reverses. Instead of pouring out of the convergence, it's being pulled back into it. The artifact cracks and shatters, and the 108 disruptor marks on the students fade to nothing. The ritual chamber shakes as the convergence seals itself with a sound like a door slamming shut. Yang Hae-rim collapses to her knees. Her body is already decaying as the dark mana she bound herself to is ripped away. She looks at Kang with something that might be awe and might be hatred. She says he's changed the rules. She says the Scarlet Eye will never stop hunting him. Then she crumbles to ash. The chamber falls silent, except for the groaning of damaged stone and the distant shouts of soldiers securing the perimeter. Kang lowers his hands, and the perception ring goes dark. His disruptor mark is still there, but it's dormant now. A scar instead of a threat. Han Soo-mi runs to him and asks if he's okay. Kang looks at the students they just saved, and the artifact's shattered remains, and the ash that used to be Yang Hae-rim. He says he's fine. He says they did it. She says the odds were 8%. He smiles. It's the first time she's ever seen him smile. He says 8% was plenty. Dawn breaks over the academy with pale gold light and the smell of smoke drifting through shattered windows. General Min's soldiers are still sweeping the underground levels for cult remnants. The evacuated students are returning from the garrison in convoys of buses. The board has been purged of every compromised member. The government has opened a formal investigation into the Scarlet Eye's infiltration of national institutions. And Kang Do-yoon is standing in the courtyard where his nightmare began. The green sludge from that failed experiment is long gone. The students who mocked him are standing in a loose semicircle now, with expressions that are somewhere between awe and shame. One of them steps forward. It's the boy who threw the first handful of sludge. He says he doesn't expect Kang to forgive him. He says he was stupid and cruel, and he didn't understand what Kang was trying to teach them. He says he's sorry. Kang looks at the boy and looks at the courtyard, and looks at the academy that tried to break him and failed. He tells the boy to report to the training ground at dawn tomorrow. He says remedial class is back in session. The boy's face breaks into a shocked grin. Han Soo-mi appears at Kang's elbow with her notebook in hand, and a fresh page already filled with training plans for the new recruit. She says 17 students are already waiting at the old bus stop. She says they want to be ready for the next fight. Kang asks what next fight. Han Soo-mi says the Scarlet Eye's inner circle escaped through a secondary tunnel during the raid. She says General Min's intelligence officers tracked them to a facility in the northern mountains. She says the cult isn't dead. It's just wounded. She asks what Kang wants to do. Kang Do-yoon looks at his student and looks at the academy he saved and looks at the future branching out before him in a lattice of infinite possibilities. He doesn't need his power to see the answer. It was always the only answer that mattered. He says they're going hunting. He starts walking toward the garage, and Han Soo-mi falls into step beside him. And behind them, the sun rises over an academy that finally has a reason to hope.